All right, y'all. What is going on? Credit Solutionist here from fixmyficonow.com. I'm also the owner of PX Credit Solutions, where we help you secure your financial future today. I know why you're here. It's not just because it's Friday and you're sitting in gridlock traffic. You are here because you want to know about options trading. On this channel, we specialize in helping you secure your financial future by telling you about not just your credit, but building your legacy. So today's guest, I am super excited. I think he is going to be a great addition to your Friday to get your weekend started off right. If you are looking for a better, new, just unheard of way to get some more income in your life, I personally think that there is no one better than the guest I am about to bring on right now. So without further ado, I'm going to bring on the one, the only, Diamond Dave.
Hey, how you doing, Credit Solution? I really appreciate it. I appreciate this great intro.
Yes. I'm so happy to have you here. You already know. So first, before we get started, I'm going to let you do your intro. Tell them who you are and what you do.
So, appreciate everybody for coming through. My name is David W. Williams, also known as Diamond Dave. And what I really do is I try to help people that are working their 9 to 5 get the life that they desire by leveraging the financial markets. But most importantly, what we kind of focus on is on the options market. And we've been really successful in helping people do that because there's normally like 3 people in society that we look to try to help. That's a person that doesn't like the fact that they're not making the money that they want to make. There's a person that doesn't like the fact that they got to take a lot of time away from their family to make the money that they want to make. And there's a person that is kind of locked in this economy to where even though inflation keeps going up, they're not necessarily getting that 3 to 5% raise, or they're waiting to get that raise once a year while expenses go up. And they want to try to figure out a way in which they can bring in some more income, developing a skill that gives them a lot more autonomy than hoping that maybe they can get an extra 10 to 15 hours on their job this week to try to pay the increased cost of living that they're dealing with in this society. So we've been very successful in going after those 3 people in our society, helping create a solution in their life, and then they can build off that. And not only can it help benefit them, it also benefits their family because now they've been exposed to it. They can kind of give their family a head start in this particular area.
I'm back. I love it. I love it, Dave. Now, of course, I ran into you here in these internet streets, just heard you on one of your live streams, definitely heard you through Erica Williams, which I think is a fantastic, segue into the next thing we're going to talk about. Okay. Now, I found you because I actually was looking for stocks because I was trying to get into the stock market, but it wasn't until I saw you that I kind of saw that there was a different approach that I probably should be taking other than the status quo, right? Now, you're an options trader from what I understand, right? You trade options. Is that options trader? Is that the right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Now, I want to know from you, first of all, why options trading? Because to me, that's so far left field as far as what I've been told as an old millennial, as far as what we're supposed to do to make money, right? So I want to know why options trading and why you actually shifted into this particular space as far as, to build your personal economy.
Okay, so to really try to give you a good understanding, and so for a very long time, what I was doing what people call media buying. And I was buying media to support small businesses, right? And I was primarily trying to help out BOBs, which people call Black-owned businesses, right? Mm-hmm. And then one of the things about you being a media buyer is you kind of also become like a marketing consultant or a business consultant. Because one of the most important parts of a business is their marketing and their sales. So if you're looking at a business, one of the things you got to understand is that in most businesses, everybody could go home and the business will still function, especially service-based businesses, sometimes product-based businesses. Mm-hmm. But if the marketing and the sales people go home, there is no business. So in a regular business, like if you work for somebody, and let's say you may work in the service sector, you could potentially take off 2 weeks, the business can still function because they can cover the gap with other people. Mm-hmm. But if we stop our marketing, we stop our sales division, what it does is that we don't, do any kind of marketing. We don't tell people about our business. We don't appeal to them to buy from us. Then also we don't have people closing sales. That really negatively impacts the business. So coming in as a marketing guy, I was doing a really, really important role for a lot of BOBs. And so I was very passionate about helping BOBs become successful because business is competition. Mm-hmm. And so for you to be successful, you have to be competitive and you got to figure out how to win. And one of those things to do that is to have really, really effective marketing campaigns, right? Mm-hmm. So one of the things I realized in dealing with BOBs, because I actually dealt with them. So I was dealing with BOBs on a one-on-one scenario, talking to BOBs all the time, understanding what their problems was, how we could solve those particular problems. Mm-hmm. One of the biggest challenges we ran into is that we especially want to say maybe 2012 to 2017, 18, we had this really strong run in the kind of like the Black social media space of you need to become your own boss and you start your own business.
Mm-hmm.
Because we have a lot of our people, and you talked about this before, they're overemployed, which puts them at a threat with their job. They're underemployed, which means they're not bringing in enough money. They sometimes work in toxic environments because of, maybe they got the wrong job, or maybe they're not skilled as much as they think they should be.
Mm-hmm.
So they're dealing with a lot of stress. So that this desire to be your own boss, start your own business really appeals to them. So a lot of times what they do is they buy this kind of like business in a box kit. I'm not talking about like a franchise or a keystone business, but they kind of buy like, here's how you do this business, right? And they buy that and they start trying to roll that out. The problem is that because of our history in this country, because of a lot of historical things, they're undercapitalized. So then the challenge is that I come in as a marketer and I'm saying we need to spend $1,000 a month on ads, and it's going to cost you $1,500 a month for me to manage the ads. And they can't afford that because they spent their last little bit of money trying to figure out how to start this business.
I've been there.
See, so because we really don't understand business, we really don't understand how to actually enter into the market. We don't know things like you need to estimate your cost and then multiply it by 3. And so what we're doing is we're stressed out. We don't like what we're doing. We're looking for the business to be a solution to our problem. And then we go into the business. And then the problem is that we don't have the money to hire professionals to help our business. So let me say, like you, for example, if I say, hey, I need to start getting business credit. So I hire you because you're a professional, because you can now counsel me on how to improve my credit report, my credit situation, so I can get business credit, so I can attract more credit lines and capital to me so I can expand my business. But see, you're a professional, so you're going to cost money. So I shouldn't expect, because you're a BOB, that you should give me a discount on your services, because you're running the business. You got to pay bills also. So what that means is that I have to have a certain level of financial wherewithal to hire another professional to come into my business to scale my business out. Right. So this is how you form a competitive business. Right. So one of the challenges that I ran into was that most BOBs never had the money from the gate to even start the business. Right. And a lot of us, what we're doing is everybody is an independent person, as opposed to forming like a consortium or a group or a cartel. Everybody's doing their own thing. Well, really, if 5 people got together, put their money together, you would be a lot more competitive. But, we are being programmed that everybody got to do their own thing. Everybody's this independent nation. So what we ran into was that nobody could really become a competitive business because they didn't have the capital from the gate to start the business. So what I realized is that the issue was not business, is that we don't understand the markets. We don't understand capitalization. We don't understand finance. And from a practical standpoint, not an academic standpoint. Also, we don't necessarily have the networks, but we don't really even understand the space. So what happened was I started trying to figure out how to solve this problem, because I kept running into the same problem over and over and over and over again. The difference between me and a lot of people is I don't just go on YouTube and talk about the problem. I'm going to try to find a solution to the problem.
Right.
And once I find a solution, I'm going to try to implement the solution. So when I was looking at private equity, I was looking at private equity in Africa, because I'm trying to figure out who can I get money from to help businesses so they can continue to grow and expand. Because many of us, because of our credit situation, because of where we're currently at from a geographical standpoint, because of a lot of social issues, when you go into banks, they don't like how you look, they don't want to give you capital. How can we solve this problem of lack of capitalization? I ran into a guy who had a stock course, right? And I don't think he teaches it anymore, but it was called the Abacus, right? This guy out of Dayton, Ohio. He was teaching me about the equity markets. And one of the things that he taught me, what I agree with, because at that point I was in that situation, is that we don't necessarily need a Black business movement. We need a Black capital movement. Now, I'm not against Black businesses, because I have a business and I believe that Black people need to be in business. But what we haven't done as Black people, let's say over the past 20 years, is try to figure out how can we get as much capital as possible? How can we get access to as much capital as possible? How can we do whatever we need to do, whether through SBA loans, whether through appealing to the government? How can we accumulate capital so that we can now go into the business space and actually be competitive? One of the biggest reasons is we don't even understand how this stuff works. This stuff is going on around us all the time. We're not even aware of it, right? So we're left out of the deal because we don't even know this is going on. And a lot of the people that are quote unquote educated about this space, their job is to maintain the status quo, even if they look like us. So they're not helping us get an understanding. Their job is to maintain the status quo, which is we're locked out. We can't participate. everybody else is beating us competitively. So what I realize is that I need to figure out a way to get my people into this space, right? So they can now learn the space, understand how to be competitive, understand how the space actually operates. So that when I sit down with somebody and we'll talk about this, and they say, well, yada, 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 I can say, well, no, that's not true, because this is really how this works.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I got a degree and so doesn't matter. This space
Right.
works, and we'll kind of talk about that. Like, when I talk about, well, so we know the credit space. A
Mm-hmm.
bank gives me a credit line, right? This bank I'm dealing with has thousands of unsecured credit lines. Well, there's a reason why they do that. Why? Because those credit lines are insured. So they
Right.
don't send out thousands of unsecured credit lines and they haven't insured their back end of the credit, right? Then they also could take those credit lines, and we talk about unsecured credit. Let's say we talk about cars or houses. They take those particular loans and they securitize the loans and sell them to somebody else because they create a yield. Then what they do is they make you buy insurance against the loan you took out. But then they act like they're doing you a big favor by giving you the loan. But you're insuring the loan you took out. Then they take that actual paper and they securitize it and sell it to somebody else who's looking for a yield. So they're not really doing you a favor, but they appeal it when, you got to look perfect to get the loan. So
Mm-hmm.
this is the game they're playing on us. And we don't even know that because we're not even aware of how this stuff works. And a lot of people are not really giving us the proper education on this space. So then we go into the space, we can't even compete because you can't play a game if you don't even know what game is being played. So that's how I got into the options market, is through this particular journey and trying to figure out a solution. So everybody that came through my program that actually is successful, we can sit down and have a conversation about the financial markets. None of us have degrees in finance. None of us are, CFAs. None of us are financial advisors.
Mm-hmm.
But we studied this space and we've applied enough in this space to where we can sit down and have a conversation about it.
Got you. Now, man, that was an earful, but you just made me realize that the reason that I wanted you on this platform is because when I deal in the credit space, you're absolutely right. When people come to me, most of the time, it's a surface level thing. It's kind of like, well, I want my score to be this because of this. And I'm like, okay, but wait a minute. We got to back up. We got to understand, first of all, why are you even in the situation that you're in?
Yeah.
Do you understand that? Because if you don't understand that, me fixing your credit score isn't going to do anything.
Exactly.
Second thing, why do you want this to even happen? What are we actually doing here? Am I setting you up for disaster? Am I setting you up for bankruptcy? What am I doing? Now, I know to ask certain questions just like you do, because of the fact that we kind of know the back end of everything and how things can actually, what the results can be if you're going in kind of blindsided, right? Now, I will tell you, I am not like well-versed in stocks at all, okay? Because I am an older millennial. I will tell you what I know about stocks. I know Robinhood.
Okay.
I know my Roth IRA. And that's about it, Dave. So what I wanted to kind of learn from you, or if you could give us just like a brief definition, because it sounds like from your personal experience, it kind of prompted you to look a little deeper into this. Why options trading over just trading regular stocks? What is the difference exactly? Because I think in order for us to really dive into it, people need to understand why they need to even play in that game in the first place and why it's different than the status quo, meaning stocks.
So definitely. So historically, and you're right, people would try to trade stocks. One of the challenges is that normally you would need around $25,000 in an account to actually be able to trade stocks. So the difference between a stock and an option is this. The stock is what we call the underlying asset. So it's what we call the foundational asset. An option is a derivative of that particular underlying asset. So an option is derived. So if you go Google calculus and understand what a derivative is, an option is derived, right, from that underlying asset. So one of the things you got to understand about the market is that if I can own 100 shares of a stock, I can now create one options contract, right? So the option is a derivative of the underlying asset. And as the underlying asset moves, it can impact the value of that particular derivative because the derivative's value is hinged to the value of the underlying asset.
Dave, now you know you speak in Espanol to a whole lot of people in this chat right now. But in your program, is this something that you would go through thoroughly as far as like helping us understand? Now, if you were to explain this in layman's terms, how would you explain that to a 6-year-old? Because well, let's say a 12-year-old. Let me give people props, okay? Let's say a 12-year-old. The average, reading level of an American is sixth grade.
Sixth grade, definitely.
That is absolutely true. Okay. So if I was a sixth grader, explain it to me.
Okay, so we'll give you a really good example. Okay, so right now there's a quarterback for the Ravens, right? Named Lamar Jackson, right? He's hurt. But So he has an option to play or he cannot play,
Mm-hmm.
right? So he's quote unquote injured. He can play or not play. So he don't have to play. He can choose to play. When we're looking at an options contract, what it does is it gives you the right to execute on something, but you don't have to. So you purchase the right to do it, but you don't have to do it. And so to purchase the right to do something, you have to pay for that particular value, right? And then that value of that right can move up and down. So let me give an example. Let's say we're looking at the credit solutionist. You say, David, I will give you an option to buy 5% of my business in 2023. And based on, the revenues, things of that nature, we agree that the price of that particular option should be $10,000. I get 5% of your business. I'm not trying to low bid your business. I'm just using that as an example.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so I say, yeah, cool, I'll buy it. So I have the right to buy 5% of your business in 2023, and I purchased that right for $10,000 just to hold that right in my possession. 2023, you have a great year. Your business blows up. So now, because your business now has become a lot more successful, right? I now hold that right for $10,000, but the value of that now goes to $50,000. So then I can now sell that contract to somebody else that wants to get a piece of your business. They want to get that 5% or that 10% because they know that your business is a lot more value and I control that contract. But I don't have to buy it. I have the option. What I wanted you to do was essentially create a placeholder for me. I can or cannot buy that based on what I choose to. And a lot of times with an options contract, you're going to get an expiration date. So I have 1 year to decide to do that. You can do the same. I was
going to say, yeah, I noticed, or I've heard options contracts are usually just for 365 days or a year,
They can be less. They can be a week.
Oh, wow. I didn't know that.
They can be a week. And you got some on the indexes that can last 24 hours.
Wow.
Right. So it depends on the expiration date. So it's the same scenario. You say, David, you can buy this car for me for $20,000 and you pay me $5,000 and you got a year to do it. Right. And then over the course of that year, that car now becomes worth $60,000. So I say, well, let me go and execute that contract because why? The value of the car has gone up, but we're locked in at the price. I paid you the $5,000 to lock the price in.
That's what I was going to ask you.
See what I'm saying? So that's really what an option is. It's the ability to do something and not to do something, but the value of that contract is hinged to the value of the underlying asset. And that's what people got to understand. So the value of that car goes down. It may not be worth me to execute the contract.
Dave, I'm going to tell you something right now. I can tell you for a fact, some eyes done glazed over in this chat right now, just because and it's not because of how you're explaining it. It's because there's a lot of work involved here. And you already understand a lot of people don't like to read. So
yeah, definitely.
Because we know this, is there a particular person that should go into options trading, or is this just for the elite as far as high IQ? Like if I'm not really so smart, not so, quick on the go, and I don't really catch on to what you said right now, am I somebody that should even take the time to do this? Or should I just keep my 9 to 5 and just kind of throw caution to the wind and just take the chance and hope for Social Security when I turn 67? What should I do, Dave?
I mean, to me, my ideal customer is somebody that does like to read. They like to understand business and they like to study, because we have to understand is that it's going to take time to get you to a level to where you have a comprehension of the space. But one of the things we have to understand is that you empowering yourself financially for some people may not be the easiest thing in the world. Just for some people, them empowering themselves health-wise may not be the easiest thing in the world. The reason why I was late today, because I came back from working out. I was talking to another guy on his live stream. He was like, I ain't worked out in 2 weeks. Only way I wouldn't work out in 2 weeks is the doctor told me not to work out. So you got to realize that in certain areas, if you're going to empower yourself, you got to be willing to be committed to the space and do the work to empower yourself. And it may not be easy initially, but it can get easier over time, because the issue to me is not the intelligence, is that we're not familiar having these kind of conversations. So that's why it seems like a fish out of water, because I'm not normal. So for the average of our people, it's not normal for us to sit down and talk about, hey, the value of this particular asset is this, but I think it may be this in 365 days. I don't know whether or not I should buy it now or wait 365, yada, yada. We're not used to having those kind of conversations. So it seems like a fish out of water. But one of the things that we've been successful in is bringing people in and immersing them in the space. And eventually they start to realize this is something I can do, but they've dedicated themselves to the space.
Got you. So what I hear you saying is that realistically speaking, these people have to pretty much participate in their own rescue.
Definitely.
Now, it's a little bit different than what I do in the credit space, because where I am, it's almost like they set it and forget it. The most that most of my clients will do, the average client will literally just upload some documents for me and just say, hey, this is what happened. Do the next step. You know what I'm saying? So what I'm actually working on this year is adding an educational component to what I do, because I've gotten that after watching you and been inspired to do it. Now, even though I don't know if I'm gonna be an options trader now, that's whew, brother, that's a lot. But I do see the value in it, though. And I'm understanding now that we need to tap into helping people understand why things are the way they are, what their place is in that situation, meeting them at the level that they're at, and helping them understand that, it's not really, these spaces are not cut out just for specific people. Everybody has access to it. It's just a matter of, do you want to put the effort forward? Now, why do you think, just in your experience, all these people that you talk to running, your company and doing the training, what are some of the things that you think we struggle with the most as far as getting into this space, other than the fact that we don't necessarily like to read? I hate to say that, but put it in quotations, like what are some areas you think that we struggle with besides that part?
Not being used to having these kind of conversations.
Is it because we don't have people around to have those conversations, or are we intimidated?
I think it's, if we're not, I think the intimidation comes from, I'm not used to it. So let me give an example. Okay. I was watching a TV show, not a TV show, YouTube video yesterday. And it was just a bunch of people that operate in the financial space. Right. And they've been operating in the financial space for a very long time. The only black guy on that panel was the black dude. I forgot his name. I think it's Charles Payne from Fox Business. Right. And, the conversation is very subdued. It's very calm. And they were just talking about how do they think the economy is going to react to the Federal Reserve monetary policy. Mm-hmm. So he's the only black person on this platform. Part of socialization is socializing you on what your role in society is.
Yes.
It's socializing you what is appropriate for you to be doing. Right. And so that's part of socialization. So many of us have not been socialized to believe it's appropriate for us to be in these spaces unless somebody else tells us that we're allowed to, or somebody else says, okay, well, because I've given you this piece of paper, you now can be in this particular space. That's not stopping anybody else, but we think that's what's stopping us. And then there's a lot of gatekeeping going on because there's people, like I said, their job is to maintain the status quo. So then they go get the education and their job is to keep everybody out, because my position only exists because I can keep people out. It doesn't exist because I bring people in. Mm-hmm, and so a lot of times, because we're not having these conversations on a regular basis, it's unfamiliar to us because we're not talking about it on a regular basis. We're talking about what we've been socialized to talk about because our position in society has already been determined before we was ever born.
Do you think that it's possible to excel beyond that? Can I, there's a word I'm looking for and it's escaping me right now, but is there a way for me to transcend that? Is options a great tool that I can use to transcend that? And if so, why is that?
Well, yeah, but see, options is really just an entry point. So the reason why I went after options is because, like I said, I've dealt with a community for so long, and I understand one of our biggest issues is capitalization. So one of the benefits of options is that it's a lower barrier to entry. Because if you're looking at the futures market, you may have to have an account to $5,000 to $10,000 to trade. We're talking about trading equities. You may need a $25,000 account to trade. I couldn't speak to crypto because I don't trade crypto. I can't speak to bonds, but a lot of times the bonds market, you need a higher amount. So what was keeping us out of these spaces for so long was the upfront capital and you need to get in, right? So I don't think you can transcend it, but you have to make a decision that I'm appropriate to be in this space. You just have to make a decision because, we can put people into sporting leagues that are very difficult for you to make. And we've been successful. Like I'm from a state, we produce a ridiculous amount of football players, right? Well, that's not easy to do. But we as a state on a cultural level have decided that we're going to socialize people to be football players. And then everybody feeds into this particular mechanism to do that. So anytime a community decides this is what we're going to do and we make it important, we can be successful at it once we start indoctrinating ourselves that this is what we're going to do. What we're doing is what we've decided is going to be important to us.
That and I totally agree with you, and that's why I was like I said, I was repairing from my edges being snatched yesterday after you came at us with some back to back live streams with some real stuff that you were talking about. Now I do understand that there is an intimidation factor here. I think when it comes to going into things that are just a little bit foreign to us as a people, and I'm talking about Black people, just so people understand, Black American people. Okay, I don't get into the little subgroups and all that stuff. We're talking about regular Black people. Now, you talked about having a low barrier of entry. Like I said, I'm somebody that would only trade stocks on Robinhood. Like I would buy American Airlines or something like that. To even think that I could speculate on how much I think the stock is going to be worth in a year from now, my mind wouldn't even go there, right? I will tell you the most risky, or not even risky, but the most creative thing I thought that I was doing. When the pandemic, I don't know if I can say that on here, but when that happened, I saw that American Airlines went really low. So I bought a whole bunch of it because I knew people were going to be trying to travel again, because that's very important to us in this community for whatever reason. We love feeding and giving money to other people's economies, right? That's just what we do. So that was something that I did. And I thought that I was doing something major. But what I hear you saying is that there's a whole other system going on that's beyond just putting my money in a stock and hoping that it, quadruples, that most people don't understand. So my question for you with this: we're focused on economic leverage here. I hear you talk about that on your channel a ton. Now, what is your definition of that aside from options trading? And is there any other way that you can see for Black people to get in to that space, I guess I should say, to get themselves in a place where they can have that economic leverage and then feel comfortable starting to invest? Because would you consider stock options or options trading investing, or what would you call that?
I mean, I would call it's not investing, because you're not actually investing in an asset.
You're speculating, right?
I would call it speculating, but I think speculating is a loaded word, because let me give an example. If you drive somewhere, let's say you say, I need to go to the grocery store. You're speculating that you're going to be able to make it home safe. There's no guarantee you will. I can show you a lot of data that show that most people get in a car accident within so many miles of their house. But the average person says, hey, I need to go to the grocery store. So they're speculating that I can drive to the grocery store and come home safely. And they do this over and over and over and over and over again. A person says, hey, I need to drive from this state to the next state. And they're speculating that they're going to be able to do it safely, even though I can show you a lot of data that shows that a lot of people down the road every day, right? So people are speculating all the time about different events.
Right.
But what we've done is we've taken that particular word, and when it comes to the stocks, we make it seem as it's a negative thing. Oh, you're just a speculator. Okay, so let me tell you something. If you think that you're going to drive from one state to another state and you're going to arrive alive, you speculated, because a lot of people try that and they die.
Right.
Right. If you believe that, hey, I can go deploy in the military and come back home in one piece, you're speculating, because a lot of people are not going to make it home in one piece. But somebody has to go over there and fight and come back. But a lot of people are not going to make it home. They're just going to die. So this, you as a human being, you're projecting into the future what you want the result to be, and you're engaging in it based on what you want that result to be in the future. But there is no guarantee you're going to get that result. You're going to get the result you get, but you in your mind is saying, I want this result, so I'm going to engage in the behavior, and hopefully I get the desired result. So we're doing this all the time. So it is a form of speculation. But like I said, one of the things that I used to teach in my dark persuasion class, we've been taught a definition of a word so somebody else can have an advantage over us, but they don't believe that definition of the word. That's just what they taught us what the word meant. So their definition of the word is different than what we believe about it. So they teach us this is what this word means, but amongst themselves, that word means something totally different.
Absolutely. And you know what, Dave? It's so funny you say that, because I've recognized after I went into business, it dawned on me. People say that I don't have a lot of tact, and it's really just because I will talk to you directly if there's something that I see that you need to know. Okay. But what I notice is that it's almost like Americans are speaking two totally different forms of English, where the reading and comprehension level is very, very low. And some people take things that you say very literally when they really shouldn't, or they, you know what I'm saying? And I've noticed that. So I do think that that's something that definitely holds us back a little bit. And then, but I want to stick to this word speculate for a minute, because when you gave the definition of, or the example of me getting in the car and driving across the street, for example, yes, I am speculating that I'm going to get there. When I think about how we speculate sometimes as people, and maybe it's a generational thing, we have a lot of people that will speculate not knowing they speculating, but taking a chance and just having a baby with somebody that we have no
Yeah.
idea. We don't know them, right? Like you said yesterday, we don't know the family. We don't know the family history. We don't know none of that. Why is it that something that is so detrimental to just the life on earth, meaning creating life with people that we don't know about, speculating that way, why is that so scary versus taking maybe $200, $300 and just throwing it into options trading, or not throwing it in, because you said that it doesn't cost money to options trade? Is that right? Or
it costs me. It does cost money.
Now, why is it that I would be so not remiss, but why would I be so afraid to put maybe say $5,000 of my tax refund into options trading versus not thinking about how it's going to cost me almost $100,000 if I really took care of my kid the right way per year while this child is alive? Why are we not able to put two and two together and say one is actually more expensive than taking a risk with the other? Am I making sense?
You're making 100%. It's all being socialization.
Okay.
We have to really understand is that a lot of our situation is socialization. So we've been socialized to think one is riskier than the other.
Mm-hmm.
And then when you have a whole community that supports one behavior but doesn't support the other, it reinforces the socialization. So like I said, I'm a student of Amos Wilson. He really gets deep into conditions, environment, rewards, punishment, and it's all a socialization mechanism. So one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people think is they think the ideas in their head are their ideas. No, the ideas have been put into your head by somebody else that controls the society. And your job is to play a role out in the society that they've already determined for you. Now, you can break out of that, but most people never will, because what they're going to do is they're going to go along with what everybody else is doing. So if I live in a certain part of Atlanta and everybody's doing the same thing, I think that's what I should be doing, because that's what everybody else is doing.
Right.
And most people, when you give them freedom of choice, what they're going to do is they're going to look to see what the people around them are doing to decide what to do. That's 100%. Just how human beings work. So because people that are controlling society know that, they set the tone on what the thing to do is. And in your communities, you're doing something else. But if you go to another part of the city, everybody's doing something totally different. The conversation is different. The goals are different. There was a brother who used to play football for the Dallas Cowboys. You might know him, named Michael Irvin. He went to a really elite school in Fort Lauderdale called St. Thomas Aquinas. He said when he went to that school, that was the first time he met people that had goals past high school. So he was in high school. We just go into high school having fun. He go to St. Thomas Aquinas, which is a private school in a really elite part of Fort Lauderdale. And he meets people that know what? I have goals past high school. That's their socialization. Where his high school is we just having fun.
Yeah.
So the reason why we think one is a different is because of our socialization. The reason why I didn't worry about it is because, to me, the risk I've taken in life, losing money is that's a joke to me. Right? Because so if I'm saying, well, I did this and I could have lost my life doing this, or I did this and this could have, if I lose $300 on a trade, that's not a big deal to me. That could be a big deal to somebody else based on their point of reference and how they're framing it. But it wasn't that big of a deal to me because I had been through things before that. So to me, if I just lose some money, it wasn't that big of a deal because it's not like I'm going to lose my life.
Right. And I think that's the part about the options trading that intimidates a lot of people, and really just going into anything financially where there's some risk involved. We don't really have a, I forget the word I'm looking for, but we don't really have like we're not able to kind of figure out which one is more risky than the other. Yeah. And it's interesting that you said that as far as like exposure, because I've heard you talk about your past a little bit, like, on some of your live streams. And what it is for me that I think is very interesting about you is that something clicked in your head, because if we're talking about socialization, you could have went a completely different way because you used to be an athlete and all this other stuff. I wouldn't think that you would be somebody that would segue into trading per se. So was this because you took that extra step to look outside the box and you stepped away from the group for a little bit, or did someone other than, the person that you learned from, what was it that sparked that for you? Because I think sometimes when we get a spark of creativity, or we kind of feel like we don't really fit, we're kind of like the black sheep. Maybe we not really fitting into our social circle. We're a little afraid to step out, which is what you said. But what is it? What's different? What is the difference between you and somebody else that's afraid to kind of step out? Like, is there a quality that we need to hone in on instead of brushing it under the rug, so to speak?
I think it's something that could be developed, but I've always been the black sheep of my family. I've always been the person that did, like, literally, I was interested in things that other people weren't interested in. Like when I was in high school, um, I listened to every form of music in the world. I knew a lot of
Same.
people where all they thought I was supposed to listen to was rap and R&B. I was like, no, I'm gonna
Same.
listen to rock and roll. I'm gonna listen to this. I'm gonna listen to what I want to listen to because that's what I want to do.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I've always been the black sheep of my family. I was always different than a lot of people I grew up around, but it didn't cause me a real issue. That's just what I was going to do. And so I always tried to figure out, as a child, I always knew that there's something going on that they're not telling me. And I couldn't get anybody to really tell me what it was because they didn't know. So what I always was doing was trying to figure out there's something going on that they're not telling me that's not allowing people to really get the life that they desire. And then I'm asking people that I think have more exposure or more experience to me, and they don't know either. And I got to try to figure out what that is. So I was always on this journey to try to get a better understanding of what's going on around me to try to help solve problems. Because one thing I noticed growing up is I see a lot of people fall into the same problem over and over again, and they never get out. And then they start to normalize being in that situation. And so I said, there got to be a solution to this, but nobody is really looking for the solution, because when you understand how this thing is structured, we produce people whose job is to maintain the status quo.
Right.
So then if my job is to maintain the status quo, I don't look for a solution to the problem. I just tell everybody they got the problem. Here's what I'm going to do to placate you in the problem. And I get rewarded for that. So that's what I started to realize is what is going on. But I've always been a person to where I was always the black sheep of the situation, but not at a negative standpoint, but I was always doing my own thing. But I understood how to do that within a group structure. So I wasn't just doing whatever I wanted to do, but I always was doing my own thing. And I always had a different point of view. The difference between me and a lot of people is I didn't get stuck with just the awareness part. I was very much invested into the solution and the implementation.
Right.
And that's really what makes me separate. I'm not a fan of just sitting around here and talking about a million conspiracy stories. The question is, okay, if we know there's a conspiracy, what are we going to do about it? And then how are we going to implement the solution? But I'm not going to talk about conspiracies. Yeah, I'm not going to talk about conspiracies for 8 hours.
Right. And I think what happens a lot in our community, I'm not even going to front, we get really stuck on ruminating about things instead of just stepping out, because you could get caught in a whirlpool of that. It's very hard to get out of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if you don't have the right people around you, you better have a real good foundation just within to catch yourself when you're doing that. Because Dave, I'm not going to lie, I get stuck in that too. And I'm going to tell you something that I still struggle with myself, because I think about sometimes like, oh, maybe I should just go get a job, maybe 2-3 jobs. You know what I'm saying? Just so I can have some security, go in there like a little robot and just do some stuff, you know? And it gets me to thinking like, okay, that's part of my programming. And that is social programming, because I am a Black woman. I was taught my entire life that I'm supposed to work. I was taught that I'm supposed to work until retirement and not to leave, you know, a day earlier. Right. I'm supposed to get my pension, and I'm supposed to live off of about $50,000, $60,000 per year. Now, if I'm somebody that has that idea and where I'm trading time for money, I want you to kind of talk to us about why that is so dangerous, and what that will look like for us, because I am of the belief that time is the most valuable resource because it is non-renewable. As you said, money can be replaced. I can always get $300 back. There's nothing, that's not a big deal, right? But it's the time. And so I guess it's a two-parter. Why do you think that we do not value the time? Is that just a social thing, or is that something else? Because I almost feel like it could just be a force from outside. I'm being real with you, without going too woo-woo on everybody. But I feel like there is some kind of energetic component to it. And why do you think we are so focused on this trading time for money and finding value in that?
I mean, it's just like, again, it's how the society has been constructed. So one of the things you learn when you're going to get a job is that you, especially where I'm from the Southeast, normally you're going to go get a job, you're an independent contractor. So you go to a job and your job is to audition for this position. And then they tell you what they're willing to pay you for the position. And so their job is to set a dollar amount on your time. And you are going to either accept that or not accept it. So what happens is over time, you get conditioned over what your time is worth. And normally your time is going to be worth a very low amount, even if you're a quote unquote high paid person. right? Your time is still going to be worth a very low amount relative to what you're doing on that particular job for the majority of the population, right? So this is all part of the conditioning. So then you just become indoctrinated this and you start to believe that my money that I'm making from these people is worth more than my time because I don't know any way to get money. The second part is that we don't really know where money comes from. So we don't really know they make money in a factory just like they make bread.
Mm-hmm.
So they can make as much money as possible. They can tomorrow produce $5 trillion if they want to.
Yep.
Right. And then our belief of money and its value is also part of socialization. Right. Because why do I believe that this money has any value? Because I've been socialized to believe it.
Yes.
Right. So their socialization game is so deep, they could come out tomorrow and say cow turds are the new money. And people will fill their house full of cow turds because that's what they told you the new money was.
100.
So you have to understand is that they realized a long time ago to build out this society, we have to get people to think what we want them to think and get them to do what we want them to do so we can govern this society so we can get what we want to get and they participate in us getting what we want us to get. And so that's the only way they could do it. There was no other way for them to pull it off. And that's how they decided to build this from the start.
Mm-hmm.
So then the problem is that the goal is not for you to arrive at a good place. It's for you to participate in maintaining this system, right? Until you no longer can do it anymore. And by that time, they got somebody else in your position anyway. You're supposed to believe that you're going to arrive at a good place. But the problem is the plan that they built for you to get there, it's hard to make the plan work based on the situation that you're in.
Right. And that's why I said, I think it takes a certain amount of imagination. And I'm just using that because I don't have a better word for it. But I think there does take, that's what it takes. Now, because I know people want to talk money a little bit. From what I read, I believe the average weekly income for a Black man is about, I think, $980 something per week.
Around that.
And for Black women, it's about 830. So we're not even going to talk about our white counterparts, whatever. But knowing that that's the case, like I said, I do think that you're right when you talk about the indoctrination, and we are pretty much in a wheel, in a cycle. We're just a cog in the machine. Yep. Because I think once you understand, the Federal Reserve, from what I understand, is they can never actually become insolvent because, like you said, they can print money however they want. They can just do it, once you understand that part of the system, I think you get a little offended and then you kind of want to jump in and get what you can out of it. Yeah. And I think that's the component that we're missing is that we don't truly have an understanding of where money comes from. And the fact that even in the credit space, it's a little difficult for me sometimes because I am promoting debt, and I'm not remiss about that. I would be remiss to not say that. I'm promoting, hey, come over here and get into debt, but we need to learn how to use it as leverage, right?
Exactly.
So, and that's the thing that I didn't know. I thought it was, let me just get this credit score and we good. Socialization, right? Because I used to think an 800 credit score meant something. Mm-hmm. If you got like a 720, you're not getting nothing better than somebody or if you have a 720, it's going to be about the same as somebody with an 800. So these people that are pushing for that, I'm like, why are you doing that? Yeah. Why are you doing that? You've already arrived, honey. You're at 720. It's cool, right? But the point is, what is the plan now? What are we going to do with it? Are we going to buy it, leverage it into a bigger asset? Are we buying land, for example? That's where I'm at right now. I'm buying land, right? But I will admit, I bought the land and didn't even really think about what to do with it. I'm like, I know I want to build, but because I don't have builders in my family, I'm thinking, okay, well, how am I supposed to do that? How am I supposed to actually get somebody to build on this land, right? So I can understand the socialization aspect that you're talking about because I still suffer from that as well. Nobody in my family has a business. I'm the only one that I know of. Everybody else is either a cop, they work in aerospace, they work in the military, they have very structured lives, right? So like I said, I think that's why I'm kind of interested in what you can bring to the table for this conversation, because I want people to understand that there are different ways. And just because we don't see people that necessarily look like us, it doesn't mean that we don't have a space there, because it's really the bandwidth of what we can hold in our mind that is really what will take us to the next place, I guess. Like I said, David, sometimes it's hard for me to articulate myself, but it's like, I see what this is. I'm like, money is not real, y'all. When you take out a loan at the bank, you're already taking out the bank's debt.
Exactly.
You're paying the bank by paying them interest, right? So it's kind of a crazy story once you think of it, or a crazy system, but it's like, you got to get whatever you can out of that. And I'm just fascinated because I think that options trading is a very good way for people to get there, right? Other than credit, because I'm gonna just tell you to go get a credit account and pull out some cash and go do what you do, right?
I feel you.
But I think there's more to it. So with that being said though, let's say that I was able to, maybe I don't have the cash on hand, right? I don't make enough because I'm a Black woman, right? I make $830 per week, right? So I already, if depending on what city I live in, I already have to save at least three weeks of my pay to pay my rent only.
Yeah.
Right. So do I actually even make enough money to get into options trading? Or should I take my decent credit score, get some credit, pull the money out, and then invest in the game like that? Like what say you about borrowing to get into options trading?
Okay. So what I would recommend to somebody, because what I don't want a person to do is what we call over leverage yourself. So what I would recommend, and this is something I think we make a mistake on as Black people, is we think we shouldn't learn about finances and money until we get it. And what I want to encourage people is that you should learn about it before you ever get it.
Right.
So when you get it, you know what to do with it. Because some of the mistakes I've made with money when I had it is because I didn't know what to do with it when I had it, because I didn't know anything about it before I got it.
Mm-hmm.
And so what I would encourage people to do is that it would make more sense for you to learn about certain things before you got it, because you can always get a second job. You can always upskill yourself and get yourself in a position to get the money.
Mm-hmm.
I wouldn't encourage anybody to take money out from a loan that they got to pay back to trade options unless they was a seasoned trader.
Got you.
Right? This is what we call taking out margin. So if they get into trouble, they know why they got into trouble. They know what to do to get out of trouble, yada, yada, yada. But I would never recommend that for a novice, because then if you don't have it and then you lose it in the market, now you already don't have it, and then you also owe somebody some more money. So in the regards of safety, I would never tell somebody to over leverage themselves as a novice, right? Become seasoned, get some cycles in the game, know why things are going, know what you're doing. Then you can start talking about creating some leverage using the capital markets, which is what everybody does, but that's for seasoned players, in my mind, not for novices. But the problem is that many of us think, I don't worry about money till I get to this point. But the problem is that one of the challenges that you getting to that point is you don't understand what's going on. So, because we don't understand how these financial markets work, we don't even understand what should come to us in this society, because we don't understand the markets. We don't understand economics. So we don't even understand what's due to us in this society. So we're taking the short end of the stick because we believe that's really what we should be taking.
And we don't even realize that it's the short end of the stick. Because like I said, we're very big on trading time for money. And we do think, like, because when I was coming up, because I'm from California. So what a lot of people, I come from an aerospace city. So what a lot of people wanted to do was you get into the military. This is what the boys would do. Okay. You go to the military and then you come out, you have whatever level, your GS-13, whatever they are, you know what I mean? Like all them levels, right? You get an aerospace job and you stay there until you die. My father was in aerospace, right? And my stepdad was aerospace and also a former Marine. So it's very hard to get out of that way of thinking. And I will tell you, some days I do struggle a lot because I recognize that, that support system that should be there for what I'm going through or what I need to do is actually not there. So I'm still fighting against the socialization thing. And then also, I'm glad what you said about the credit, because I needed to just add that in there, because I think a lot of people, when we don't have the money, the first thing we want to do is use credit to try to leverage ourselves. But it's because we don't truly understand how it works. Like if you don't understand options trading, don't take out $10,000. You guys just don't do it.
Don't do it.
But would you recommend that they buy your course?
Yeah, that's what I said. They could go get the education, but I wouldn't recommend that they take it out trying to get a quick result, because one of the things you got to understand is that when you're starting from zero, it takes time to ramp yourself up.
How long did it take you?
Oh, took me about, for me to really get, I thought, good at trading options, took about a year.
Oh, wow.
And it was a year of a lot of really diligent work, because one of the things about being an options trader, it disciplined me. So I was dealing with somebody and I was up every day at probably 7 o'clock. So what did that mean? I can't go out at night. I can't be drinking. I got to discipline, because I got to be up before the market opens to make sure I understand what's going on before the market opens. So me getting into the trading space really gave me a lot of discipline, because I had to operate a certain way to put myself in the best position to make the money, because I knew that I was a upstart. But because I had gone through that process before as a media buyer, I knew what it meant to start from zero with no understanding of a space and to build myself up in that area. So it wasn't a new process to me. But I would tell somebody, again, don't think you're going to get an overnight success. But what happens to a lot of our people is because we are so desperate economically, and then we're also so socialized not to deal with certain situations, we often don't look to change until we crash out. Then we want a quick result. So we're looking to who's going to get us a quick result, and that's how we're being marketed to.
Yes.
So then when somebody says, well, I can put you in a program that's going to take you 4 years, I don't want that, because I need a result now because I'm in a bad situation now. So then I only received a conversation of people telling me I can get you out of this situation in 30 days. But many times that doesn't work.
And so they be mad when you tell them.
Exactly. So that's the issue, is that I tell people, one of the most important things I learned is a marketer. He passed away now. His name was Dan Kennedy. He was a big time direct response marketer. And one of the things he talked about is that you should study money before you ever have any. So when you get some, you know what to do with it. We don't believe we should study money and we should study economics. So I come out of a school system in Florida. You get one economics course. You get one semester in 12 years of school.
Yep. And it's at the end.
Because at the end, it's in your last year, your senior year. Yep. So the state has already decided we don't want people to be economically, have an economic understanding, because it makes people easier to govern.
Yes.
You don't really understand what's going on. So then that's why a politician can sit down with you and say something and it don't make no sense, but you don't know what don't make no sense because you don't even understand economic systems. They know what doesn't make any sense, but you don't even know. So they can lie to you to your face. So it makes us easy to govern. So one of the things I'm passionate about is not only teaching this to adults, but in saying, well, teach this to your children. Because like I said, I don't come from a bad background. Both my parents was gainfully employed. All my aunts worked for the state. My mother worked for the state. Everybody was gainfully employed. We never had a conversation about real estate. We never had a conversation about the stock market. So I didn't even know this stuff even existed. It's because I just came up. You're going to work, get a job. You're going to retire, get your pension. I got 2 people living in Chicago right now. They got a nice pension. That's how they was programmed. Right. So you got to understand is that if I didn't know this stuff, I know a little farther south of my neighborhood, it starts to become a little bit more lower income. I know those people down there have no idea about this stuff. So we have a large amount of our people have never been exposed to it. They got one tool set that they're supposed to use to try to become successful. If that don't work, then nothing works. And so they're not taught. So you talked about your family. There's no wrong with it working in aerospace. It's a very good, stable job. You can make a lot of money. So there was a company, a defense contractor in my city called Martin Marietta, right? A lot of people made a lot of money working for there. But if we had a better understanding, we could say, okay, let's take this aerospace money and let's go get some rental properties, right? Or let's take this aerospace money and let's go buy into these particular companies, right? For as they start to move up over time. And so then we're diversifying ourselves to where not the only way we're going to get rich is off the pension or the 401k. That's how other groups think. We just think we got one way, and if the one way don't work, then it don't work.
And I also think that we've been socialized also to only go into certain sections of society. Like we're good athletes, right? Yeah. We're good athletes and singers, right? So that's the only thing that we've been socialized to do. But I think what's so interesting, and I'll go back to the family thing too, because I something my uncle said when I was like 10 years old just popped in my head. But why do you think it is that we're socialized to want to go into things where the barrier for entry, while it's not that high, the chances of actually becoming successful and being number one at that thing is so freaking low? Yeah. Like, why are we socialized to that? Because I could look at that. Anybody with common sense can say, okay, all of y'all on that basketball team, you're not going to make it to the NBA.
Yeah.
What's your next plan? Like, I have a cousin that plays over in Europe, right? Okay. So he kind of said, okay, basketball is going to be my life. I'm gone, right? So he went ahead and kind of kept the dream going. But he's one in how many dudes, right? Yeah. Like, really? So why is it also, and I guess, I'm sorry, Dave, I feel like I'm being redundant here because I feel like it does always come back to socialization. But when you think about it, why are we missing that common sense aspect where we say, okay, that's not going to be possible? It's a handful of people that are actually doing that, and they're the main one doing it.
It's like
everybody can't be LeBron.
Yeah, it's socialization. So that's the thing, is that when we create a system to where you're rewarded for doing this, and you get social rewards and you get social acceptance for being this person, and we make it seem like that's the thing you need to do it. And also our most prominent people are entertainers.
Right. That they allow us to see.
That they allow us to see. And one of the ways in which we're taught to appeal to each other is through entertainment. So we're not taught to appeal to each other through actually knowing something or actually being we're just taught the only way I can appeal to our people is I got to lead with entertainment and then back in the education. I just can't come with the education.
Right.
So we have to understand is that all of this is socialization, because the goal was never for a certain group to ever be successful in this country. Our real role in this country was to build the country, and then they figure out something else to do with us later. So now that they're stuck with us and they figured out, okay, we can just keep y'all inside this box. We can use y'all for these particular areas, but outside of that, we really don't have a lot of use for you. And so, like I said, this is why we have to come up with our own solutions, because nobody's going to create the solution for us. And a lot of the people that look like us, that are supposed to be the solutions providers, they're the status quo provider. Their job is to keep the status quo, not to change anything. So that's why they keep either telling us that everything's going to be all right, telling us you shouldn't go into these spaces because of yada, yada, yada. But they're just kind of blocking the door to the space because that's really their job.
Right. And that makes complete sense to me. The other thing that I noticed is that when you talked about how we were made to build the country, the interesting thing is that we are in a way still building it, because we are the biggest demographic in the private sector.
Yeah.
Because, we do the retail, we do, hospitality, just what have you. Black people are just the number one in everything, except I think like janitorial and stuff like that. We're not leading in that, but they got a monopoly on that. We know who they are. But, damn, dude, it's always coming down to socialization. Because I'm thinking, why is it that we can't actually take a space and dominate it, as far as like having a space that's not dominated by other people? If you go into entertainment, that's clearly not dominated by Black people, right? Yeah. There's still some gatekeepers there, right? Exactly. Because they're not going to let you take charge of how we communicate with the world, how we shift and change the narrative of the world. We will never have that power, at least not in my lifetime. So when just even looking at entertainers, it kills me. I'm like, y'all, that's not real. That's not real life. But it's funny because I'm seeing that we haven't really segued, because we're still in the service sector so much, we are technically still in that space that we were, say, 200 or 300 years ago. Because we're still in that space where it's like, okay, you're the help. We just need you here to kind of be our workhorses. And then, once you age out of the system, we'll just get a whole new crop over here. Right. Yeah. So I guess with what you do that I see is so unique is that you provide an opportunity for us to actually have like a lifeboat and to get out of this thing. And I don't know, how should I say it? What I like about what you do is that you still got some of the salacious stuff that you kind of mix in there, because I think I can tell you are a marketer and you study your demographic.
Yeah.
That is something that I actually struggle with. So I might have to get your services or something, because I struggle with that, because I'm more like, hey, y'all, let's just fix this. I don't really want to mix in, hey, let's talk about this baby daddy stuff, and then I'm going to slide in why you need to fix your credit, or, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I understand. 100% I understand.
So I guess I'm asking you a question just off the rip, or like, is there even room for people that just want to get straight to the point? Or is it that because we're kind of in this system where society sees us a certain way, the algorithm see us a certain way, our neighborhood sees us a certain way, our school system sees us a certain way? Is it up to us to play our role in it and then just kind of try to get our freedom in our off time? Or what is the solution? Because I'm like, dude, everybody might not be able to be an options trader today, but what can a person do in their regular life to get a step ahead, I guess, and just step out of, the mess, I guess, without having to participate in it? Because I don't like having to do all that. You know what I'm saying? I just want people to just want it. I want people to want it.
I mean, so you got to realize, like, first thing I had to accept is that the conditioning is greater than the. So this is what you got to understand, is that where we're positioned in this structure, we don't have the ability to socialize people on the same level that the system does. So what I can provide is a pirate signal, but it's a very small signal, but I can just reach out to the people that I want to reach, that can actually pick up the pirate signal.
Mm.
right? So options trading is not going to be for everybody, right? But what I want to really encourage people to do if they never trade an option ever is to understand that their financial situation, they're going to have to figure out amongst their group, their family, how to solve that problem. Because the real goal of the system, really, we're here to work and pay taxes. We're not here for anything else. We're here
Oh, you know
just
what? You cut out a little. You cut out a little bit. What did you say
we're here to
after?
work and pay taxes.
Okay.
So as long as we keep working and paying taxes and don't cause any problems, that's really the extent of our role in this society. Then if we at the end of the road have enough to retire on, it's a bonus. If we don't, that's still our problem because we just got to figure it out. So what I want
And
to
we'll
really
still be in the work. We'll still be in the workforce in some capacity.
we may be, or we may not be. We may not even be healthy enough to be. So let me give an example. I just came from the number one retailer in the country, right? There's a guy sitting at a door with a walker. See, I think about this type of stuff where this guy was not able to provide enough financial security for himself. So now he had to go back into the workplace at an advanced age. So he's sitting at the door as a greeter with a walker. So he doesn't have the ability financially to get off the job. Right now, because he's a lot older, may not have had the opportunities that I have. But what I want to really encourage people to do is to realize that the system has already factored in that a lot of us are not going to be able to retire with anything. They don't care because the goal is to make sure that we're working, make sure that we're paying taxes. If we're a man and we're not working, incarcerate you, then we can get tax dollars from you through incarceration, right? Make sure the women keep having children and produce the next generation of people that are going to work, pay taxes, or get incarcerated. So that becomes that's the feedback mechanism that they created to keep the bottom of society moving forward.
You're absolutely right. And thank you for mentioning that little part. And I know you got things to do, sir. So we gonna wrap
No
it
problem.
up.
We gonna go. No, we gonna keep. So I got enough time because I made sure that I got enough answers to really flesh this out because you the first show to allow me to really sit here and talk about this type of stuff. So I got plenty of time.
Okay, thank you so much, Dave. So this I'm trying to figure it out myself also because I only got some insight when I talked to my mother about it, which I'm not going to put all her stuff out there, but it's very interesting when you ask a person a question as far as why they made the choices they made, and you just ask it with no judgment, you'll be surprised at what you'll actually find out about people. And this socialization thing that you said, I want to just kind of touch on that again, because I think that this is really the foundation of why we are where we are, because we really have been brainwashed and programmed into our section of society, right? And what's so interesting is that, like you said, we've been socialized to kind of, be the workhorses. And as far as the women go, I know for sure that we've been socialized to just kind of do everything ourselves. But we're marketed to in such a way that it tells us that we're actually benefiting from having that, from having that autonomy, from being our own person, having agency, right, over our entire household, which is all these kids that we can't really take care of properly because it's just us. We're being taught that that's actually the way to go, and not to look at any other options or bring somebody into the household and actually build a true, strong familial foundation, because there is no value to that. That's what we've been taught, which is so interesting because there's some kind of like psychological break here, because we're being told this by people that aren't us, number one. And then number two, we're being told that we should have these broken families because stronger, somehow the family's stronger, even though it's broken. We're being told that by people that value actually having families and having structure and having, they have gatekeepers, you know what I mean? Like you talked yesterday about how, I'm sorry, I'm kind of segueing, just forgive me. But I feel like some of this does actually, this has something to do with it, because I think the fact that we want to be alone all the time is why we actually will not seek other options as far as building wealth. And we're kind of stuck in this one place because we've made decisions in our life that don't give us the freedom to actually pivot and go into another direction and actually build something that's really quantifiable. Because I don't feel like, I don't know, it just seems like we've been sold a bill of goods, and I'm wondering, why is it that some of us can see it but some of us can't? Because I've been socialized the same as a lot of people that I know and the general society. So I guess I guess I was just expressing myself. I don't even think I really had a question, but I can see how the cycle is actually repeating itself right now. Just with all of that, because I'm like, wait, how are we supposed to actually get out of this when we keep making decisions that are keeping us in that cycle of being workhorses and working until we're seniors and sometimes having heart attacks at work? Like I'm trying to figure out how we're supposed to get out of that, I guess, when we've been socialized to stay in it. And I don't know. Somebody help me. I don't know. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm trying to figure out what is the way to get out of that, because I know you call yourself a reluctant hero. I believe that's what you call yourself, right? And that kind of stuck with me. Is what I'm talking about as far as like why this is happening. Are you a reluctant hero because you're trying to alleviate that in our community, or are you a reluctant hero because you kind of know what you're saying is going to fall on deaf ears and we're all just going to do what we want to do anyway? Is my question, really.
So the reluctant hero archetype is the person that didn't desire to be the hero. So let me give an example. So I don't know. Have you ever seen the first Star Wars? The first one?
That's the one. Well, yes, I have.
Okay,
But
so
I was
I don't know if you're a sci-fi fan. So you
no,
ever seen the?
I
Okay,
was
cool.
hot.
But the first Star Wars, Luke Skywalker is the hero of the story, right? Obi-Wan Kenobi in the old version is what we call, he's on the hero's journey. Obi-Wan Kenobi is his advisor. So on every hero's journey, you're going to have advisors to get the hero to the point that they're trying to get to. When they go into Tatooine and they go into the bar and they meet Han Solo, he's really the rebel archetype. But over the course of that movie, and then as we go into the Empire Strikes Back, he turns into the reluctant hero. And then we see a little bit of more of that when they do his own one-off story, right? So the reluctant hero is the person that did not desire to be the hero, but the situation made it to where he had to become the hero character, right? So what I do, I never wanted to, like, I don't have a desire to be famous. I didn't want to get a lot of social media attention. I didn't get on social media to make a name. I had a name when I was a teenager because I'm from a neighborhood. So I already had a name. People already knew who I was. I already was established. I already had a reputation. People knew what I was about. So I didn't have those issues. A lot of people, especially in this social media, in my opinion, they come on to try to get something that they didn't get as a child or maybe as a teenager, maybe as a young adult. And so that's their goal. They want to be this hero character. And that's what's driving them. I didn't do that. But what I understand is that you're never going to get everybody. But my goal is to get the people that are so dissatisfied with the situation that they want to make a change. Right? So if you look at Star Wars, the majority of people in the actual universe, they're not a member of the Rebel Alliance. Right? The Rebel Alliance is full of people that are just so dissatisfied they decided to take up arms and do something about it. The average person in that universe is just working, living their life. They're going about it because why? They've been conditioned. We're never going to beat the Empire. We can't do anything about them. They're too strong. So that's how it works. So I think a lot of our people don't really understand power dynamics. We don't understand human psychology. We really don't understand how the human brain really, really works. We don't understand group psychology. And a lot of the things that are working on us aren't working on us because we're Black. They're working on us because we're human beings. And the human brain, really, we don't want to get too deep into it. We're really the only really true, full 100% humans on the planet. A lot of people really not 100% human, if you understand what I'm telling you. But they understand human psychology better than we do. So we often don't understand our own human psychology, so we don't understand what's being used against us. They do, because let me explain something to you. You're dealing with a power structure that has tapped into every empire and every leadership group that has ever existed in the history of the world, and they've incorporated all of that into what they're currently doing right now today. That has never been done in the history of the world. So they know what every leadership group since the beginning of time has done to rule of society, and we don't know what any leadership group has done. So we don't even understand the stuff that's being done against us to persuade and influence us, to reward or punish us, to engage in certain behavior. So we don't even see it coming. So my job is to find the people that are dissatisfied with the scenario and to try to help them. But I know that I'm not going to get to the majority of people because their programming is so sophisticated. If you try to stop them to help the person, right, they'll stop you to protect them. And I know they'll do that because I understand what's going on. So that's why I don't go back and forth with people. I know how deep this programming is. If I try to help them by stopping the people that's hurting them, they'll hurt me to protect the people that's hurting them. So when you understand that's how deep this goes, my job is not to, be the face of nothing, to be the lead. My job is just to pick people out of the crowd that are dissatisfied, but didn't know there was a way out. And I say, hey, I might have a way out for you. And if I don't, I might can tap you into something that can help you start developing a way out, because this isn't right, but you just don't know what to do. And maybe the people around you aren't helping you, because what was very frustrating to me is that when I was a lot younger, I had a lot of questions about how come I'm not able to do this? How come I'm not able to do this? How come this isn't changing? And nobody could give me any answers. It was just, you just keep doing this because that's what you're supposed to be doing. Because the people around me, their attitude is that's all this is ever going to be. There's nothing's going to change about this situation. And so I know that frustration, and I try to help people that have that same level of frustration, but they got to be willing to do something. We're not just going to talk about it forever.
Why do you think it is that we like to talk about things so much instead of actually do some action? Because I will tell you, we're the most I'm finna people on the planet. Let's be real about that. And I just had to give you props because I'm glad you said what you said about people not being from here, because I'm with you on that.
Yeah.
But we cannot say that on this internet, so that's okay. But I think once you understand that, because if you really step back and look at the whole system, you would think, okay, Dave, you're flesh and blood just like me, right? And the other person is flesh and blood just like me, but their skin color might just be a little bit different. Why is it that person gets to carry a gun and gets to maybe stop me on the road whenever they want to, or they get to, slam a gavel down and tell me that my freedom is going to be taken away, right? What is so different about that person and me that they have that power to do that, right? But it is because of the social the social structure that you're talking about and being indoctrinated very early, because I do think there's something to that, right? And now we're not even talking about credit, but options. But it's like, when you really step back and look at everything, you have to actually accept that you have been conditioned. And even though we think we're making these decisions on our own, to go to work, to get a degree, when you really step back, that we're not making very wise choices, right? We're actually being conditioned to make choices that are actually going to stifle us and pretty much put a glass ceiling on our life, so to speak. And we don't even really see that. We've been taught the freedom, or the freedom is actually bondage. That's what it truly is. But we've been taught that it's freedom instead. So that is so interesting. I'm glad that you said that, because I think for most of us, we have to kind of go way back to when we were kids to kind of tap into that. Because I agree with you, where I always knew that there was something off about just the way my life was, going to school, all that kind of stuff. And I never really knew what that was, right? And I'm still sussing out a lot of it in my adult life, to be quite honest with you. But I think as a people, if we could kind of tap into that and just lean into recognizing that things are not correct. And it's not because we're Black. It's because, like you said, we're human and we have a brain and we have a lot of other functions going on in our body that tell us something is off.
Yep.
Right? We were gifted with that system inside of our body, like something is off, right? So it's kind of interesting. So in your course, do you kind of tap into that with people, or do you just teach options? Because I feel like you might have a psychological component to what you teach as well.
Yeah, definitely. So in the VIP course, we do have a woman that I deal with that comes in like as a service provider. She's out of Virginia also. Mm-hmm. And what she comes in with is what we call a subconscious therapy. One of the biggest issues is that I know from my own experience and from everybody else, most people's biggest block is psychology. Mm-hmm. So the trading is easy. The math is not that difficult. The operations are not that difficult. We have technology to assist us. Used to be able to make trades on the phone. Mm-hmm. It's very easy now. We got computers. But what stops most people from getting their success is a psychological block, right? There's something about your psychology that has been seated in your head that won't allow you to get success, because we talked about before, it's conditioning. If you have been conditioned your whole life to think that I'm only supposed to get to this level of society doing these things. So if I can't make it as an athlete, can't make it as an entertainer, I can't make it through a criminal lifestyle, well, then I just have to accept I'm only going to make $60,000 a year. Or if I make $100,000 a year, I have to accept that I'm only going to make $100,000 a year. I'm never going to make more. Or if I make $500,000 a year, I got to accept that I'm only going to make $500,000. But me and my people, we'll never control any farmable land, or we'll never control markets, or we'll never have our own military. See, all it, so you got to ask yourself, why do some people believe we should have a military? And other people believe that, well, you know what? I shouldn't have a military. I should just have, a big house and a car and a lot of women, but I shouldn't have a military.
Right.
So you got to realize that this is what you've been programmed to believe is appropriate for you. So sometimes your biggest block of success is what's already going on inside your head. And many times what's going on inside your head will not allow you to get the success that you think you want. And so once you uncover that, you can figure out what's been stopping me my whole life. Because one of my biggest issues is a lot of my psychological issues that was a block to me getting the success that I wanted. I had to discover and learn about. And a lot of people like to, the internet is a big place for people to do a lot of what I call free therapy. But I think people need to actually deal with a professional and actually go through the process instead of trying to do it all by themselves. Because they may need somebody to guide them through the situation as opposed to doing it on their own. Because like I said, most people are protecting their biggest opponent. They're protecting their opponent. I used to tell people this on Facebook 3-4 years ago. I say, you're protecting your opponent. And the reason why you're protecting your opponent, because you think your opponent is your best friend. And they wouldn't understand what I was saying. And I said, if you really understand that, you'll realize what's really going on with you. But you are dedicated to protecting your opponent, and you don't even know where your opponent is at. But that's what I was teaching people in my dark persuasion course. You have been taught to protect your opponent because you think your opponent is your best friend. Because your opponent has taught you, I'm your best friend. I'm your friend. I'm your provider. I've done everything for you. I'm going to protect. Really, they're your opponent. They're really your enemy.
Man. You said a mouthful there, and I agree with you because a lot of people don't know that a lot of like large Black organizations are actually started by non-Black people. Yep. And that really is because they just need a face to the message that they need to keep perpetuating, right? Through time. And something interesting that well, I just started the book. I've had it forever, but I just started reading it. It's called The Jewish Phenomenon, I believe.
Okay.
And in like the first couple of chapters, the author talks about how what Jewish people do is they only go out to other groups because that group can help them further perpetuate their own goal, right? Exactly. They actually are helping them reach their goal, but they're not going to let you in. They're gatekeepers. You know what I mean? And I thought, man, like I learned that living in LA, because if you go to, drive to LA, in certain parts, like I used to live in Hollywood. So if you go maybe like south a little bit, there's like Beverly Hills, West LA, all these other places. But when you get there, you get the sense that you don't belong. Okay. Right. And I think that a lot of people are trying to climb so much, or they're trying to claw their way into that society, that they're not even seeing what's really going on around them. When, those people, they have a lot of structure. Right. And that's the one thing that I noticed about them versus how we live. If you really stood back in LA, you'll see who does what. Okay. We are the clowns. Okay. I'm just going to be real about it. We are the clowns over there. Okay. Nobody looks to us for banking advice or financial education. Nobody's looking to us for that. But if they want to know how to throw a ball, they go to the Black people. Right. That's what they do there. Now, with that being said, I what you said about, helping your enemy, for lack of a better term, it's like that is a real thing, Dave. And I don't think that we truly understand what we're doing, even down to wearing a damn wig. We don't even realize that we're helping perpetuate the message out there that, yes, we need to stay down on this level. I know I'm not saying that right, and I probably offended somebody that wears a wig, but I got braids in my hair, y'all. Don't trip. But I see that. And you're so right. We have been socialized to actually protect the people that are actually doing us the most harm. And I do think you have an interesting journey ahead of you, and you've been in this for a few years. So I know you already see it, but you just being a Black man in general, to be quite honest, people are already going to be hesitant to listen to what you have to say. Yeah, definitely. So yeah, but like I said, because I see, for me, I already know you can't always look at the package that something comes in, because the way you judge the package is basically based on your social conditioning, right? And I've already told you, I didn't tell you, but I grew up in a single parent household. So I've already been taught, okay, Black men don't know nothing. So don't be listening to them. They don't even know enough to stay around. So it's like, I had to break that barrier myself. So you're not kidding when you talk about the subconscious, stuff that affects us, right? Because I still got some things going on too. So I think it's very nice, and it's very what's the word I'm looking for? It's I can't think of the word, but it's just nice that you're adding that extra component to the trading instead of just blurting the information out or just vomiting it on the people. And, here's this stuff, just read it. You're actually understanding that there's more to it than just the surface. Let's get rich. Let's make this money. Let's do whatever. Right. Was that always was that something that you had to kind of grow into? Like, did you go into it knowing that there was a psychological component to options trading, or was it something that you developed over time and you recognized there was a connection there?
Yeah, I mean, my biggest obstacle for a long time was psychological. So the reason why I wasn't successful in a lot of spaces because of what was going on inside my head. I used to have a lot of anger issues. I used to have a real big issue with a lot of vindictiveness. I used to have a lot of issues with always having issues with other people to the point where it could get violent. And I realized that those habits would not allow me to function around normal people. So I had to unprogram myself, because this is what people got to understand. When you are, and I don't want to use this term, it's going to kind of sound hokey, but I say when you're vibrating at a certain frequency, what you do is you attract people that do the same thing. So if you are, your whole life is vindictiveness, violence, revenge, everybody around you is on the same program. So either the people that you're in relationships with, and then you start attracting other people to you. And the reason why you're attracting them to you, because y'all are doing the same thing. So if you are living, if that's all you're into, and then you go somewhere, you'll find it that I'm attracting this person to me, and we're getting into a confrontation because why? We're into the exact same thing. So we're drawn to each other almost like a magnet. So I realized, and then the problem is that once you say, well, you know what? I don't want to live like that anymore, because that is so much a part of your lifestyle. You now can't function around normal people, because normal people don't live like that. They talk like that on the internet, but that's not really how they live.
Right.
So then what you got to do is you got to deprogram yourself out of a lot of bad conditioning, because you realize this is what's holding you back. So I realized it wasn't that I wasn't intelligent enough. It wasn't that I wasn't smart enough. It was the way in which I reacted to certain situations wasn't going to allow me to become successful. So then I learned that in every area. So I realized that for a lot of our people, we haven't been socialized to be successful and be truly competitive. So it's easy to trigger us. It's easy to hot button us, because people already know what our button is. So they come in the door with hitting the button. We react to it. And then they don't ever have to do anything for us, because they know all I got to do is come in the door, hit your button, and you get caught up in that. And then I could walk out and I'll never have to do that for you. And then as soon as you say, well, we want funding for this particular thing, I'll come back in the door, hit your button again. You get caught up in that, and all I do is walk back out. So I had to realize is that I was really playing myself by allowing myself to get caught up in this, because if somebody wanted to get to me, all they had to do was come at me a certain way. And in my mind was, okay, let's just go straight to violence. So then I would play myself off the street, and I'll be incarcerated somewhere, because that's all you got to do. And there's a certain segment of our population where you can do them like that and they're going to fall right into it. So I had to realize is that I didn't have the right mindset to be successful, and I had to change that. And then I had to be committed to not falling back into that, because a lot of this stuff that you see on the internet is triggering to me. And I have to keep reminding myself that it's not real. These people are just acting. So it don't make sense for me to be legitimate with them when they just acting. Right. And that's something that it took me a long time for me to actually get over that, because I was meeting with a guy 2 weeks ago, and we're going to try to do some stuff online. He said, David, you did a real good job of not getting on any online beefs. I said, yeah, because I realized there is no online beef. These people are acting. So I would be an idiot to be real with them, and they're acting, because all they're going to do is tell on me. So I have to realize is that none of that behavior is going to make me successful, because they're acting and I'm being legitimate. And so these are the things that a lot of times we get caught up in. And it's just because that we don't understand that we have a psychological block that's not allowing us to be successful. So it's really hard for me to get upset now, because I really work on just staying level, because that's where I'm most efficient. I'm not efficient if I'm doing this all the time, but that used to be who I was. My behavior was very erratic, because that's where I was at psychologically. Yes, ma'am.
I got you. And I think sometimes too, I like that you said that, because I think a lot of people need to understand that, males in particular, and actually females, because we fly off the handle, or tend to sometimes as well. And we think we wear it like a badge of honor. And
Yeah,
what we have to understand is that the world is looking at us. They're not looking at us because of the color. They're kind of, well, they kind of are, but it's almost like, okay, nah, they're just those people. Let them go
yeah,
ahead and act that way. Let them hit each other. Let them do what they do. Just it's okay. And I noticed that, and I think what you said is very important, because a lot of times we don't recognize that. I guess that, the powers that be don't really see us in that light of, oh, these are people that can actually build something of substance, right? Because we kind of do allow them to push those buttons, and then we
exactly,
respond and we react like you said, because there is no other group, and I've looked, there is no other group that actually has open discord or open animus towards
exactly,
the males and the
exactly.
females. Now, the number one way I know to pretty much, I don't want to say kill off a race, but that's really what it is. They probably gonna take it down now that I said that. But the number one way to kill off a race or keep them non-competitive is to keep the very two people that can perpetuate the race and grow the race and have more babies and healthy families, keep them at odds with each other. And if we can keep the man and the woman in that group at odds with each other, we don't have to worry about them ever getting their shit together.
Exactly.
They'll never become a threat to us, because as long as we can keep that dysfunction going on and give them the little bit of benefits and all that good stuff, then we're good to go. You know what I mean? So we don't recognize that when we play into those tropes. You're right. That's exactly what we're doing. We're literally just solidifying our place in society as far as where we are. And like I said, there's no other group that does what we do openly, right? Because I can tell you for a fact, some of these other groups, they can't stand their women, but you know what? They stay with them.
Yeah, yeah,
And they say because there's a greater they stay with them for the greater good. I feel like that's not even the right way to say it, but they stay with them because there's a bigger mission at hand. Because um there's like it's legacy, that's one thing, but
hmm
there's just a general, like, rule that they have in the group that they're just not going to deviate from. You know what I'm saying? If the marriage
right,
has to be arranged, it's going to be arranged, right? If the daughters are going to all be married, they're going to be married. If you're not married, you're the weird one.
yeah,
Okay? If you don't have children, you're the weird one, because you're actively stopping the family tree, right? So it's like when we look at the way other cultures live and we say, oh, that's white people stuff, or oh, that's Asian stuff. It's like, well, no, 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 no. That's what people do that actually want to grow and, solidify their group's place in society and in the world, right? And if we take what you said, where we are the original people and we're the only earthlings that really truly exist, why is it that that's been beaten out of us, so to speak, where it's like we totally forgot that particular foundation of actually where we came from? Like, why is it that we've forgotten it? And it's so blatantly, how much, oh gosh, I'm sorry, I'm all over the place, Dave, but it's like, it's right in our face. We can literally see that we're being played, but we still fall into it.
no, I think you can
No
see
other
it.
group lives like we
No,
do.
I think you can see it. I don't think most people can see it. I think you can see it. So you may assume that other people can see it. Other people can't see it. So, like I said, so everything that is going on around them, this is normal. It's just, see what I'm saying? Because everybody around them is doing the same thing. So, like, you got to
Mhm.
realize it was normal for me to do some of the stuff I was doing because everybody around me did it. Now, my family members didn't do it, but my social circle, everybody around me did it. So it's normal.
Mhm.
So if
Mhm.
everybody around me engaged in the same behavior, the behavior is normal. Your behavior only becomes normal when you go into around other groups of people and you realize, well, okay, everybody don't act like this. But if everybody around me is engaged in the same behavior, it's just normal behavior to me. So I think that you may say, well, it's abnormal, but for the majority of people that this is their day-to-day lifestyle, this is because I really think a lot of people, as I've gotten more experienced online,
Mhm.
this is really this is their mindset. But like I said, it seems odd to me, but what I was doing at one time was odd to them. So we were both in the wrong position. Is I decided to change my life, and they decided to just double down on what they're doing. But to me, it's human psychology, right?
Mhm.
the human brain works a certain way. And if you can insert certain things into the human brain and it accepts it, over time it institutionalizes itself and it becomes normal. Right? So then you may not be aware that, well, what I'm doing is abnormal, because why? Everybody around me does the same thing. Human beings are group-oriented animals. We take social cues from other animals around us. So the biggest way to influence a bunch of human beings is to influence the group. Right? So you will get individual people out of the group to say, no, this don't make no sense. But it doesn't matter, because if I got 100,000 people, if I can get 95% of them to go along with it, the 5% that don't, they'll never be able to influence the 95% to stop doing it anyway.
Okay, there's a comment here. I want to read it. I just wanted to get your thoughts on it, because I only read the first couple words and I'm like, okay, wait a minute now. Okay, I'm gonna just show this one. So Black men can't have a legacy with the current laws. Okay. 80% of married men with children have to come to the realization that they will not be with their children up until they are 18. I'm not sure I quite understand. How does the law keep a married man away from his children?
I mean, that may be his reality. So if he believes that, then he'll play that out. So that's what I said, is I'm not here to argue with people over their reality. If he believes that Black men can't have a legacy with the current laws, my question is, are you trying to change the law? If you're not trying to change the law, then we just talking. And I'm not here just to talk.
Right.
So that's what I said, is the reason why a lot of our people, we're still in the awareness of the problem stage. We're not into the actual implementation of the solution stage. So I'm not going to get with a bunch of Black dudes and talk about the marriage laws. So what are we going to do about it? Because I made my name by actually being active. I wasn't a bench warmer. So I didn't make my name by talking. I made my name by being active. So we just want to talk about so the question is, if you believe the marriage laws are against the legacy, what are we going to do about it? If we're not going to do nothing about it, what are we talking about?
Right. And I think I see what he's saying, but I'm not sure that what I think here, as far as where he's going with this, because I actually know a divorcee. I was pretty close with one. And what I noticed after having multiple conversations with this person, Black guy, he was just a poor picker. He was just somebody that jumped into things because marriage was the way to go in order to get laid. So I think sometimes we go into these courtships, or we go into these relationships with the wrong intentions in the first place. A lot of people do marry.
She cut off. So yeah, so my question would be, if we have an issue with the divorce laws, what are we going to do about it? As opposed to, are we just going to talk about the divorce laws? Now, if you say, well, because of the divorce laws, I'm just going to exempt myself from marriage, that's cool. That's what you decide to do about it. Because the question I would ask is, are the divorce laws different for Black men than they are for every ethnicity inside the United States?
They're not.
So that's the question. But like I said, is that I'm not part of the community of Black people on the internet where we just talk. The problem is so adverse, I can't do anything about it. Because like I said, I didn't make my name by doing that. I made my name by being active. So my job was, in everything I do, I'm going to be active. I was never a bench warmer in anything. I was always involved. That's just my personality.
Am I back on? Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Okay, bro, the whole thing kicked me out of the studio and everything. That was so weird. I think I think I said the wrong thing.
I feel you. I just kept talking. I didn't allow it to be dead space.
You be knowing what to do. No, but I was just going to say that I think we also do need to accept that. And then, I would say the same thing to the women, but I know that that's not what this live stream is about, but a lot of this is about accountability. And that's why I wanted to have Dave on today, because you are very big on accountability. Yeah. And, you are honestly giving me the drive to want to have more in-depth conversations on my channel, and kind of look at the psychology behind what I do as well, and the psychology behind some of my clients, and what they are going through, because this kind of, comment, this is like my typical client. You know what I mean? It's like, it's everybody else's fault. It's the law's fault. It's not me. It's not because I didn't pay my bills. That's not why. It's not because I decided to ignore the collection letters. It's the system. The system did it to me, Victoria, credit solutionist. That's why. But it's like, no, that's not what it is. So I think that there is some accountability that goes on, that has to go on here. And we also do have to choose better. And, you gave a great list of questions that we could totally ask a potential partner yesterday that none of us do, because we're, very animalistic. But what I wanted to say is that when you talked about, you said something before I got cut off there, so I lost my train of thought. But we have a system where, like you said, you have to change the laws. I will tell you this, and then, just respond however you feel. Okay, so I was in Hollywood in 2020, and this is where I started to see a lot of what I was being presented was BS, because they had some riots right outside my door, right? Hollywood was a horrible place to be in 2020, just so y'all know. Okay. And it wasn't like nothing what they showed on TV. Anyway, so people came out, burned up the whole city, right? They burned up the Jewish part of town, just so we're clear. They came out, but they only did the perimeter. They didn't do the whole thing because they wasn't going to let them do that. But they came out, just, young people, burn the whole place down. The next day I drove out there just to see what was happening, because I knew it was just all emotion, right? They were playing on our emotions during those couple of years. Do you know that they were out sweeping up glass, painting, doing all kind of stuff? Those buildings were back up and running a week later.
Yeah.
Right. So when you say that we're being played based on our emotions, I believe you. And I saw it play out in live and living color, because what people don't understand is that with a lot of the stuff that we complain about, we do have to actually step into it and take agency and get it done and enforce the change. Going and tearing up a neighborhood or whining online or, starting a riot doesn't really do anything. If anything, it kind of perpetuates what you talked about, where we're very, you didn't say this exactly, but it's like we're emotional, right? And we're kind of just the emotional people in society. That is our role right now. But if you step back after something crazy like that happens and really look at how the city comes back together, you didn't do nothing. All they did was throw some rocks through windows and burn some cop cars. All of that stuff got replaced a week later, because those people fight on paper. And I think with what you do with options is it's great, because you're teaching us to fight back in a way that is non-emotional. Because to trade options, it's my assumption that I have to remove all of the emotion. Nobody knows what color I am when I'm trading. Nobody knows anything about me other than the fact that this is the play that I want to do, and that's it. And I have the money to do whatever I need to do. That's all they know about me. I don't have to be emotional about it, and I can still affect change without being emotional. So I just realized that I noticed the stark difference between what emotion looks like and how it plays out when you think you're doing something and you're really not, because people are prepared for you. They're prepared for your tantrum, right? But in options trading, they may not be prepared for your level of skill. Am I seeing this correctly? Because I'm like, wait, I can see where if we harnessed our energy in a different direction and took out the emotion, we could actually be successful in certain areas.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you, but what I would want to encourage people to focus on is that I'm not against the emotion, is that where is it being directed?
Right.
So
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So I'm not against the emotion, is that what activity is the emotion being directed at, and what is your actual emotional state? So if I feel defeated, I already have a reason why I can't win. So let me give an example. The Bucks are getting ready to play the Cowboys on Monday. If the Bucks don't believe they can win, why play? So if I don't want you to be competitive, what do I need to condition you to do? That you can't win. And then I never give you the tools to win, and I continue to reinforce that over and over again, year after year after year. So you know what you do? You just believe I can't win. So then what do? I just complain on the internet because I can't win anyway. So a lot of our behavior, it speaks to the fact that we don't believe we can be competitive. And then now I have a justification for why I can't be competitive, instead of what do I need to do to become competitive in this environment? Because you are in a competitive environment. So either you're going to accept that I'm going to keep losing in this area, or I'm going to become competitive in that area. And if I don't care about being competitive in that area, then why am I talking about it? Right. So I think that's something that we don't necessarily understand, is that I'm not against the emotion. I'm against the emotion being used in a way that's negative to us, because we allow other people to manipulate our emotions for what they want, and then we don't get nothing out of it.
Yeah, and like I said, I feel like some of it is reverse psychology in a way where it's like, people that don't look like you will tell you, "Oh, well, you can't get ahead because of that." That definitely plays a role, and you're kind of like,
Yeah, but the problem is,
"How?
but
It
the
was a
issue,
standardized test. What are you
yeah, but see,
talking about?"
this is the issue. Instead of them telling you that, they can say, "Here, I know that you have this particular challenge. Let me give you the tools to become successful." But see, they're never going to do that because that's going to make you competitive. So they're just going to
Right.
use you to get upset over it so they can not direct you at another group of people. But really, they're using you, but they're never going to say, well, this particular situation is not into your favor. Let me empower you with the tools to become competitive in this area.
Mhm.
Right. So that's the thing is
Yeah.
I don't believe I'm never going to hold a live stream where we just going to have a bunch of black men on here talking about the problem. Because there's no way in the world I can sit in front of my father and whine about the problem for 4 hours. He
Mhm.
say, like, what are you talking about? So because that's how I was raised, I would have to come to him and say, hey, look, I tried to do this, and it didn't work. Do you have any suggestions? I got to
Mhm.
show him the work that I did in the area for him to even listen to me. Right. So I
Right.
think a lot of it is socialization, to where we haven't really socialized a lot of people to believe that there's a problem. I need to figure out a way to solve it. Even if I'm not successful, that's better than just sitting around complaining about it. But that's your psychology. If you don't believe you can be competitive, you just sit back and keep getting your ass whooped.
Right. And I think that's what I like about what I do, and it's the biggest thing that I appreciate, or that kind of gets me going. It's the fact that a person can come to you, and I'm sure you go through this as well. A person can come to you with a totally bleak outlook, and they think that their situation is far worse than it actually
Exactly.
is. And you recognize the only reason that this person sees that their situation is so dire is because they programmed themselves to think it's dire. If
Exactly.
you come to me and you had a bankruptcy or something like that, or you had a collection, whatever, let's just keep it simple. Are you not looking at all of these major ass banks that got bailed out a few
Exactly.
years ago?
Exactly.
You're in good company. How about that?
Yep.
How about I'm going to change your psychology? You're actually working like a billionaire. How about
Exactly.
that? Because they understand, okay, we lost it, fantastic. But if you structure your life in such a way, some of these losses aren't even going to matter. You know what I'm saying? Like it just really depends. And it's because we don't have the education on how to structure certain things in our life. That's why we feel the brunt of whenever something negative happens. But I always say that to people. I'm like, hello, the big three, whoever was bailed out however many times, and how many times has the government been bailed out of stuff? So it's like, look, y'all, they're playing a game. They just don't want you to know the rules. Okay. There's always a way to get out of something. Because what is it they say? Illegal just means or a fine just means illegal for a price or something like
Yeah. Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
And it's like, yo, that's really how this thing works. So it's the psychology that I think we have to work on. So I'm just happy that people like you exist to not just talk at us and really help us understand that it is our psychology, and to start looking beyond the surface when we think things are unfair or just aren't going in our favor. You help us to kind of take responsibility for our role in it, right? And like that's the thing that I really love about what you do. And that's why I implore anybody that's kind of, interested in this, check out Dave's channel, check out what he talks about, because he's always going to tell you to look a little bit deeper, actually a lot deeper. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of us just take the surface and we just roll with it. And I'll say this, I understand why that happens, because a lot of you are busy. A lot of you are mentally exhausted. So you
Yeah.
don't
Definitely.
really have the time to investigate, right? But for me, in order for us to really get ahead, some critical thinking is going to be necessary. We are literally, in my opinion, going to have to buckle down for the next maybe few decades and
Exactly.
really just do some things that we're not excited about. You might have to marry somebody that you don't like looking at every day, but there's a bigger goal at hand that has to be carried out, right? Because building the structure is never going to be easy. That's the whole point. You know what I'm saying? Like nothing worth having is going to come overnight, and it's not going to be comfortable all the time, right? And that's just where I'm at right now. So, like I said, with your reluctant hero thing, I feel you on that, because to me, you are going to be a hero, even though you don't want to be one. And even though you didn't really set out to be that, I think that you're definitely onto something. I'm still refining my message. So, that's why I'm just like, oh, all over the place sometimes, but it's like, I get what you're saying. And I guess my question to you is there hope? Do you actually think that, through options trading or just learning ourselves subconsciously, is there hope for us? That's really what I'm asking. Just plain English. Is there hope?
Yeah, I'm very optimistic because of who I surrounded myself with.
Mm-hmm.
So, I know a lot of Black people that look like us that are very successful traders,
Mm-hmm.
right? So, a lot of people have this narrative that it can't be done. Well, I know a lot of Black people that are doing it. They was doing it before me.
Okay.
So I've curated an audience of people, but especially through social media, to where I'm very optimistic. But see, this is the difference between me and a lot of people. Because I really understand group psychology, I understand power dynamics, and I understand how this thing is really structured.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have the expectation that we're going to get everybody, because everybody don't want to go. Yeah. And I'm not one of those Black people to where I think that we're not we have a responsibility to bring every Black person with us. So like I said, the guy that popped up, if he don't believe in family legacy, that's his business. I don't have no problem with that, man. He do what works for him.
Right.
But I know for a fact is that if I build a family, his family won't be competitive with mine, because I got a family going against 2 or 3 people. See, so I don't worry about that, because I'm concerned with being competitive, and I'm concerned with mashing, and I'm concerned with being active, and I'm concerned with pushing the line. That's all I'm concerned with. So if you're not concerned with that, then we're not going to fit. We won't work, because I don't understand what you're doing. So that's what I tell people, is that I don't waste my time with the people that don't want to be involved, because that's not what they want to do. Mm-hmm. And I understand that in any environment, you're going to have to accept that you're going to build out a power group, and everybody's not going to be in that group. And you shouldn't have any issue with that. One of the things that part of our psychological programming is that we're scared to be in power. And then we think everybody that looks like us should be in power with us. And no other group thinks that. So if you go to China, you go to Europe, go to Central South America, they have power groups, and they've accepted that everybody that looks like them or has their same ethnicity or comes from their same background is not going to be in power. They're competing against each other. We've been taught that, 1, we shouldn't be in power, and then 2, we got to bring everybody with us. That's not how the world works. So that's why I said I don't argue with people over nothing. My goal is to get me and my group to help people get in a position of power, to give them the tools to get in a position of power. And then once they get in that position of power, they understand that, you know what? The rest of the people got to figure it out, because everybody can't win at this game. Somebody got to lose. My job is to make sure I'm not losing. Mm-hmm. It's not to hang out with a bunch of losers. That's not my job.
And I think we've been conditioned to think walking away is winning.
Like that's not my job with a bunch of, and no disrespect to nobody, but it's not my job to sit at the end of the bench and complain about, oh man, the coach won't play me. My job is to figure out how to get in the game. Now, if I don't want to be on the team, then I get off the team. Mm-hmm. So I think so, but like I said, this is the socialization, and because of the way they built this structure, it'll keep going with a lot of marginal people. You don't have to really be excellent in America to have anything.
No.
So it'll keep going with a lot of marginal people, but it'll never put you and your group in a position of power. Because all of these guys, who are they? Like in the real world? Like I'm actually in the real world. I can't meet any. I don't know any of these people. When I'm in the ATL area, I'm linking with people. They come from families of people that are in position. Mm-hmm. Right? You go down to Miami, you're dealing with them Cubans, you're dealing with families.
Yes.
You go to Houston, you're dealing with them Asian people, you're dealing with the Mexicans, you're dealing with families. You're not dealing with just this one dude. That's not how this works. So because I understand the format of the people that are in position of power, and I understand it's a group thing, this is something that Erica talks about extensively. Mm-hmm. I know how this structure actually works. And so I work to build with people that want to do that. I don't care what you look like. I don't care about your sexuality. All I care about is that you want to get further in this particular area, and you're passionate about it, and you want to move forward. We can connect on that, and we can figure the rest out later.
Yeah. And I just, and I'll say this, and I'll leave Mr. Merriweather alone, but guys, pay attention to this, because if you do surround yourself with people that speak this way, what you have to understand also, we got to be better about, weeding people out as well, because this person, there's just the comment. I'm not coming at you directly, but I'm saying a comment like, not this, do you have a family, but the comment of, let's just be alone, let's just all go be an island. That's the most dangerous person that you can actually align yourself with.
No, but
Right?
that's his opinion. But my question is that, what does that have to do with what we're talking about?
Absolutely
So
nothing.
so that's what I'm saying. So that's what I'm saying. So I'm not tripping on him. He do his thing, I do my thing.
Right. I
And then
got
when
you.
we see each other in the environment, it's gonna be what it's gonna be. But I'm not gonna make concessions for another people just because they got the same skin tone. Because if y'all doing y'all thing and y'all got to get out of the way for my people, that's what's gonna happen.
I got you.
And y'all
I
just do
got
y'all
you.
thing. That's what I'm saying. So I'm not tripping on nobody that's doing what they're doing. Because like I said, I'm actually in the real world. And I don't see a lot of this in the real world. I just see a lot of it on the internet.
All right, I got you, man. All right, let me do this. Let me go through the chats real fast, see if they have any
Yeah.
questions for you, and then we'll let you get on, because I know it's Friday. You said you
No
worked
problem.
out, right? You already worked
Yeah,
out?
I'm gonna work on it.
Okay, so you good. All right. Let's see. Okay. Reagan, thank you so much for the super chat. I
Reagan,
appreciate
appreciate
you.
it, man.
I know you always come through. That is so awesome. Okay, so we got some little aliens here. Because I be trying to think outside the box day. We little aliens over here. Points blank travel probably gone now, but thank you so much for stopping by, Rod. I appreciate it. Mentor Shelly, thank you, thank you, thank you. Yes, Dave goes in all the time. So if you want to be mentally stimulated and you want to see beyond what you see on the surface, I mean, you definitely got to check out Dave on his channel. Let's see what it say. Channel I love to hear your thoughts on sending children to public versus private school. Okay, so I guess that could be a topic for one of your future videos if you haven't talked about it already.
Yeah, definitely. I can maybe look at that on the future video.
Strong reading, independent learning is investing in that money instead. Yeah. I would honestly say just
What's
I don't
up,
have
GC?
Oh, yeah. I would say
What's
he's
up,
always
GC?
in your
Yeah.
chat. I was gonna say, as far as public school goes, for me, that's just glorified babysitters, in my opinion. But okay. Yes. Hey, Katrina.
What's going on, Katrina?
Okay, GC, what you saying here? It's just in some people.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's true. And I guess what we have to do is identify who has it and who doesn't. Because a lot of us are on the cusp of having it, but we're not too sure if we should cross over. We're kind of scared to leave what we've been programmed to do. Get a group of people that are on the same page. Yes, that is true. Yes, and it's so funny. It's not really outside the box. What's so interesting is that we've been taught to think outside the box is like, it's just normal stuff, guys. Like, this is stuff that normal, regular people do in other groups. We just think it's weird because we don't do it. We are the stock market. Oh, so she's one of your, she's in one of your courses?
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
Yeah.
I love it. Yeah, everything's been planned out. And the reason I know everything's been planned out is because the cycle perpetuates and repeats itself. So it's kind of like watching a rerun every single year. That's enough for me to know that I've been programmed or they think I've been programmed to live a certain way. I already know it. Like I'm actually taught that I'm supposed to be alone for the rest of my life. I know what the system has for me. I know it. I know what they think they're gonna have for me anyway. We're looking for a way out. Yes, we are. Didi comes through. Yes, for sure. Yes, like, share, and subscribe. All right, let's see if there's any. Yes, Mentor Shelly, you're supposed to be going live, girlfriend, just so you know. All right, let's see if there's any other stuff in here. Sorry, Mr. Merriweather, we just had to make you an example tonight.
No, and blessings to him. Hope everything work out for him. Because like I said, it's just internet stuff.
I know. Because I couldn't.
I move around outside too much, and I don't have a problem with nobody.
And I've never heard anybody talk this way. I've never.
And most people, when I'm outside, most people don't even talk to me. They don't even talk to me. So that's what I'm saying. I don't get into none of the internet, because when I'm literally in the environment, most people don't even talk. I was just in Atlantic Station a weekend ago, just moving around. Most people don't even talk to me. So it's cool.
All right. Thank you, Selfish Love. If you're still here, I know you said you're behind, so you probably aren't even hearing us give you a shout out, but thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. Hope for any of us. Okay, we got that already. White people. What are we talking about white people for? Pouring at the bottom. Yes. Like I said, with the work that I've done in the Section 8 space where I do the auditing, I would say we're definitely not the leading recipients of that, but that's just because we're not the majority of the population. That's all. Do you have a family? I think, okay, we didn't answer that question. That's none of your business. There are literally white nations fight. Yes, exactly. That's what we need to understand. Like, y'all.
And Russia. Yeah, definitely.
100%. It's like it is. So it's beyond a color thing for sure. But unfortunately for us, we kind of do have to start there just because we're so far behind. I don't think that the solution is to go and never mind. I'm gonna not say what I want to say, but I think that we should try to maybe keep it black for a while if we can. Yeah, I know what I'm saying. Yes, okay. All right, I think we're at the bottom now. We need to be 1% better. Yeah, that's very true. And I think it's incremental. And I think too, Dave, I just want to say this before we close out, but I do think the internet kind of gives us that idea that everything is supposed to be instant because we're only seeing a snippet of everybody's success. And it's really only the curated content that they want us to see. Spend an hour like offline with anybody that you admire on social media. And I think you'll have a completely different idea of who that person is. Most of our lives are truly mundane as far as the goings on every day, so I think that's the other barrier that I hope that we can break down just as Black people, men, women in general, just humans. I hope that we can, I guess, see beyond that because it really is there's a plot here and something's going on with this thing. You know what I'm saying? It's not as innocent. Yeah. And it's like, it's not as innocent as it looks, and it's not going to help us in the way that it's being promoted. There's something darker at hand here. But again, it does take a different type of mindset to even be aware of it and scratch the surface. So like I said, I appreciate what you do because you're giving us a different perspective on something that a lot of us don't know very much about due to social conditioning. I'm almost positive if I go to talk to an uncle about options trading, he's going to say, what the hell are you talking about?
I feel you.
I'm living on my pension, little one. Go sit down. You don't know what you're talking about, So that's definitely something that we struggle with. Let me see here. And it kind of took a turn. I'm sorry, Dave. I know I have my little questions for you, but it's like, I don't know. I just figured since you were here.
We pretty much covered it, and
all right,
it was a good discussion around a particular topic, and we got the point out that we needed to get out because it's bigger than just the options market. Because the goal really is to empower people.
Yeah,
and so that's one of the reasons why my message isn't going to hit everybody because it's an empowerment message.
Do you think that people? Okay, because I do feel like some people don't want to be empowered, but I don't think that that's how they truly feel. I think that they are defeatists.
Yeah, and that's cool. But see, this is the thing I had to learn a long time ago. There was times when people tried to tell me stuff and I didn't get it because I wasn't ready for it at that moment.
I get you.
Later on, somebody told me the same thing. And I said, you know what? Somebody told me that 10 years ago. So what I realized is that if it happened to me, it's happening to other people. I'm not the right person for everybody. Some people need you to tell them something, right? I'm the right person for the right person because of the way I talk, the way I carry to myself. Because as you see, I was raised a certain way. I'm just not for a lot of side stuff. I'm for what we doing. Let's focus on that and let's move to the next scenario. So that kind of personality don't work with everybody, right? So that's the thing. I was talking to somebody about me doing a live event. And I say, well, yeah, we're going to have armed security at the live event. They say, well, you got a problem? Somebody said, no, I'd rather have the armed security and not need it than we have what we just had. And we sitting there butt naked. So yeah, we're going to have armed security. We're going to be tooled up. I'm from West Orlando. We move with artillery. So that's what I'm saying. I'm not for everybody. I'm for the people I'm for because you got to be comfortable at a live event and it's artillery. Right. You got to be comfortable with that.
I don't know why that makes me laugh when I hear people that are all against that, and we're not going to talk about the political part of it.
Yeah,
but
when I hear
everybody
people, not comfortable, I understand that.
And I'm like, y'all, you are an American. You better arm up.
They not comfortable. But like I said, I'm not going to have a live event knowing how these people act on the internet, and then something happened.
Yeah,
and we in a bad situation. So we gonna make sure everything is correct because that's how we move anyway.
I got you.
So like I said, I'm not for everybody, and I recognize that. I'm for certain people, and my job is to help those people, and I hope the other people get the help they're looking for.
I do too. And like I said, I still have hope, even though I don't know where it's coming from, Dave, but I still have hope for people. And, I'm glad right now. I think there's a place in the world for someone like you and someone like me and someone like Erica and
Yeah,
whoever else,
definitely.
right? There's definitely a place in the world for all of us. And, I'm just thankful for the people that are willing to listen, while I sort my thoughts out on the air and listen to you, because you be having the crafted presentations. I'm like, I'm trying to
Yeah,
get
yeah,
like
yeah.
you. Okay, but that's what we need, and we need to see that it's not so bad to actually use your brain power, right? Because we only use what, 10% or something like that.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna say you probably use about 13 and a half, if not 15 or more. You know what
Okay,
I'm
I
saying?
try to.
Sorry, Dave,
I
but
try to.
I do feel like you are pushing it as far as pushing yourself to the next level, and I that resonates with me, because that is something that I want to grow in this year myself. So, I mean, I thank you so much for what you do and for coming onto my little platform and just talking to me for this about to be 2 hours now, talking to me for this 2 hours. Because it's nice to know that I'm not like on an island here and that I can see things that, I kind of thought maybe I was making it up in my head, but it's like, nah, it's really, it's a game going on around us, y'all. And we gotta be cognizant enough to catch it. And really just, I guess, use the tools that we have in addition to sharpening our tools with someone like Dave or myself or whoever you choose to listen to really get yourself to the next level. Because there's people out here building legacies and foundations and we don't have nothing.
Exactly, exactly. And I want to say this before
So
we go. I know that my message is not a mainstream message, and it's also not a message that most people think will get them the most attention, right? So because it doesn't fall in line with kind of like what the status quo is, a lot of people won't give me a platform. So I want to really appreciate it. I thank you for giving me a platform, because I saw that Erica, I want to say Body Hood, and yourself, most people in the quote unquote Black YouTube page won't put me on, because I'm not talking about celebrities. I'm not talking about women. I'm not talking about any of those things. And they don't believe that messaging is going to resonate with their audience. So I really
true.
appreciate you platforming people like me, because what I eventually want to move to is where we can have a bunch of people looking like us talking about monetary policy, the economic situation, yada, yada, yada. But it's going to be a process, because a lot of our people, they've been socialized to only want to get one type of entertainment news from the YouTube. So I appreciate you going on that ledge and doing that.
Oh my gosh, Dave, it's rough out here. We'll talk a little bit behind the stage and then I'll let you go.
I feel you.
But yes, you guys. Okay, so please tell the people where to reach you and if you have a way for them to get into your course. I actually have a question before we get off.
Okay.
The dark, what is it?
It's called Dark Persuasion. So what Dark Persuasion was a training that I created where it was trying to help people really get power. So to avoid people like the brother that got on where they feel powerless, because
That's really what it is.
you have to realize is that we socialize people to believe they should be in power, and we socialize other people to believe they should not be in power. It's not coincidental, right? People have to realize that it's not coincidental. It's a socialization. So one of the issues that we have as Black people is we don't believe we should be in power. So because we don't believe we should be in power, then we never are in power, because we don't believe we should be in power. Right? So Dark Persuasion was created to get people to understand how to change their attitude around actually being in power, and understanding that you're going to have opposition, you're going to have people that don't like it, yada, yada, yada. And you can't worry about that, because you have to believe that the survival of your group is based on your group being in power. So we created that. Wow. It's not for everybody. In fact, it's not for 99% of the population, because most people really don't want to be in power. Because, I don't know if you watch the Game of Thrones or watch House of the Dragon. Yeah. That's what comes with it. Assassinations, people get knocked off, that's the game. Yep. So most people aren't ready to play that game. So cool, just get out of the way. Because there's no guarantee that if you try to get in power, it's going to work. You may get everybody in your family knocked off. But if you don't try to get in power, then you never will. So that's what it was built to get people to kind of understand the psychology behind that. It's not for most people. It's not a scaled out course. Most people are not appropriate for it. But I have been successful. I taught it to 4 people. 2 people took it and ran with it. The other 2 didn't do nothing with it. Yeah, so that's really what that is.
Because I was going to ask you if that was available, because I've heard you talk about it, and I'm like,
and so right now we're not really. But I may just stick it with with the 2, because what I wanted to see is that if I taught it to people, would they do something with it? Because this stuff is not. It's not for the mainstream. So it's very similar to where if you get into the military, there's very few people they send to the war colleges because that information is not for the mainstream. It's just for select people. But if you go to those colleges, you're being fast tracked or being put in position for high levels of leadership. But they teach you stuff there that they don't teach anybody else. Right. And so that's what you got to understand. So our Secretary of Defense, the brother that's there now, he went to the war college. The sister that became a brigadier general that was promoted by Trump, she went to a war college over in the UK. So we have to understand we've always had secret schools to teach people how to be more effective. And it was never meant for the mainstream. It was meant for certain people that are willing to get the information and move with it, as opposed to just get, oh, it's good entertainment and don't do nothing with it.
Yeah, that's why this internet space is unique, man, because it's hard to figure out who's who and what's what unless they put up the cash. And
yeah, you just put a price. Now you can do a higher level credit training and put 20,000 on it. Because if I can learn from you about credit and it opens up hundreds of thousands of dollars, it's worth the 20 grand. And then you just got to find the right people for it.
Yeah, and we talked about it already. A lot of that, a lot of it is socialization. Because I know if I pulled up in a rented Lamborghini, y'all would buy everything that I was selling, even if it was bullshit.
Exactly.
Y'all would buy everything.
But there are people paying that money to learn about credit because they want to open up access to more credit. So they'll throw the 20 grand at you because they know over the next 5 years they're gonna get $1 million worth of credit.
And then I think too, what's real important is understanding that if there's a place, and I think we have this bad, and I feel like I'm coming down on Black people, but look, this is the love, the tough love that we need. But it's like we will literally hit a roadblock and we'll just walk away. It's like we will not ask somebody for the answer. We will not seek the knowledge. We'll literally just say, oh, well, I tried. Let me just go on back to what I was doing before because this ain't for me. Yeah. And I'm like, the service that I provide might be a little similar to what you do, but with what I provide is, especially with my consultations, I literally am the one person that you could talk to where you were not sure which direction to go in. You're kind of at that crossroads. Okay. And I literally tell you, hey, listen, what you said was right. You're supposed to go do that. And then whatever you paid me, I now just opened the gate for you to go through and continue the legacy that you're building for your family. Right. So we need to also bring value back to those kinds of things. Like you said, the education is not for everybody. And you do have to put money up sometimes to get that information from people. Right. And like we talked about it the last time, I think when I was on your show, the little bit that person pays you for your time or your course or whatever it is so minuscule in the grand scheme of what they're going to get in their life, what the payoff is going to be. And I think that is what we need. And that's why I'm thankful for people like you, because you teach us that is how the game is played. OK, you got to pay for the knowledge sometimes, y'all. It's not going to be in this free space. It's just you're not going to get it. OK, so that's all I got for you guys on this Friday evening. Okay. So, Dave, other than your dark persuasion course, I cut you off. What else do you have offered for?
So we got the highest paid part-time job in the world, also known as the highest paid online options training academy. And if you want to follow me, you can follow me on YouTube. Just type in Diamond Dave. You also can find me on Instagram. I think it's Diamond_Dave. So I'm on those both platforms. You can tap in. You can get a little bit more familiar with what I do. Watch the videos. And then eventually, like I said, if you feel like you'll be a good candidate for what we're offering, go ahead and get into it, right? And we may look to maybe do a live event maybe sometime next year. Want to do one in the spring, but don't have time to plan it. But yeah, if I can't have armed security, I'm not going to have the event.
Oh, you can have armed security.
I just got to make sure it's cool with the hotel. Because, I had to ask the hotel. But yeah, because that, what I'm saying? That's how we moving. But if I can't, so I just want everybody to know my job is to make sure we provide a safe environment for people to learn. And we can keep all the weird stuff out of there.
That sounds like a deal to me. I mean, you thinking like that's higher level thinking right there, Dave. So that's what you got to do sometimes. So at least you know the possibilities. So that works. All right. So it doesn't look like we have any other questions in the chat tonight. So thank you so much, Diamond Dave, for coming through. Please hang on. Don't hang up. No problem. And thank you guys for watching and coming through and getting this game. Be sure to follow Diamond Dave on his social media. And if you haven't subscribed to me either, go ahead and subscribe, y'all. All right. I don't know what you're waiting for. It's time to get this game in 2023. But anyway, I will catch you guys on the next video. Credit Solutionist out.